Live from Austin, Texas, broadcasting worldwide, it's Alex Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, all of the usual disinformation outlets came out yesterday claiming that InfoWars reported that Hitler is still alive. And they took it out of context and edited what Owen Schroyer said. He said, coming up today, we'll look at the JFK files about multiple shooters and LBJ and the KKK and Hitler still alive, according to the CIA in 1955. We're not saying that. That's been in the Daily Mail. That's been in the Associated Press. They got a History Channel show hunting Hitler about it. And then they said, well, that's like the last time Jones said there's Martian moon colonies or Martian slave colonies with humans on it. I never said that. There's no video. There's no audio. It's fake news. And look, I know most of us know it's fake news. But can you imagine being their readers and the type of people that are so controlled and so dumbed down and so stupid that they want to be lied to like that? There it is, Media Matters. That is literally the mouth of Soros. Reporter for Alex Jones says Hitler is alive and the U.S. government is covering it up. No, in an intro piece, he said, coming up, we'll look at the JFK files. The JFK files. The JFK files. Remember, we broke 9 days before they were released. We broke they would be released. The media said we were liars, but we were correct. Then when the CIA held back 200 files, we said, watch, Trump will release them soon. 2 days later, he released it all. Just like he said he would. I don't want to open the broadcast defending ourselves. I don't have to defend ourselves. I'm just simply pointing out what deceivers they are, and here's why. We don't have one, we don't have two, we don't have 20, we don't have 40. I looked it up this morning with a search engine of Infowars.com, and guess how many news articles and videos we produced during the primaries alone saying that Hillary was stealing the nomination from Sanders from New Hampshire to California. Guess how many hits came up? Over 400. Now, some of them were duplicate links to articles, but I scanned it this morning. Over 100 articles with exact precision that, by the way, went right to Trump every day. That's why he would then come out and echo it, and the media would say, Trump's getting the disinfo from Jones. We got to put a video together with all this. It'll take some crew to dig through it all, but we've got the videos, too, and they'd go, national television, Trump's getting his info from psychopath Jones and says that Hillary stole New Hampshire and stole these other states and is stealing the delegates and everything else, and he's just a horrible demonic liar, and he's the worst person on earth, and we just can't believe that Trump is listening to this horrible white supremacist, unalloyed racist. Well, let's put the headlines back up on screen. Let's put that faithless delegate up there first, who we have on video. And he lays out the exact plan. Of course, Trump listened to us. Flashback. Hillary superdelegate bragged about DNC plan to nomination months before. And that's a flashback from July 29th, 2016, because it was even older than that. That was once she stole it. Our flashback is from July 29th. If you go to the actual video, you see when we did it during the New Hampshire primary with him bragging. That is a super delegate about how it would work. Didn't matter that Bernie would win New Hampshire. Hillary would get double the delegates from the state and every other state she lost. They agreed the day before the California primary to give her all of the delegates. It was rigged criminally in front of everybody. The date is November 3rd, 2017 on this Friday Global Edition. But the date was February 12th, 2016, the day after my birthday, that Richard Reeves filed a video report, one of our great intrepid political reporters, from the ground in New Hampshire. And the superdelegate, a well-known superdelegate, who had been working for Hillary for 20-plus years, The Democratic Party laid out the complete plan of how it didn't matter if Bernie Sanders won every state in the union, which he was doing at that time, they would give the delegates to Hillary. And indeed, when Bernie Sanders won the state by a large percentage point, Hillary was given double the delegates, and in some states even more. Now, the Republican Party tried this with Trump, but Trump fought back. Remember George Will writing for major publications and saying, it is not a plurality of voters or a majority that counts. It is we, the party, and we are the arbiters, and we will decide. Incredible jump the shark arrogance. We fought back and said, no, state and federal laws actually say that you ceremonially as a party get to run this, but under election law and Civil Rights Act, you can't do what you're doing. And they had to back off. And that's the only reason we have President Trump. Is you fought, I fought, he fought. And remember what they said in hundreds of publications. Trump is insane. He's going with news from InfoWars, claiming Hillary is stealing and planning to steal the complete nomination. 400 plus links when you type in Hillary stealing the nomination from Sanders, Hillary planning to steal New Hampshire, Hillary planning to steal California, Hillary meets secretly with Democratic Party chiefs night before election in California, and they decide to give her all the delegates. I mean, we had the operatives on the ground. We had the moles. But here's the great part. They were so arrogant, they'd usually tell us. So then what was the media going to do? They would just say, Jones is insane, Jones is insane, Jones is insane, it's crazy. They wouldn't really do that. But Drudge Report would link to some of our stories. They would get to the president, he would check it, and he'd come out word for word pointing it out. And they would freak out and say, that's preposterous. Well, guess what's come out now? We have Wolf Blitzer. We have Pocahontas, Senator Elizabeth Warren. We have, you name it, across the board, the former head of the DNC, Donna Brazile, leaving the sinking ship because the Clintons won't walk the plank. They won't leave the ship, so everybody else is walking the plank, leaving her on the burning, sinking ship. So now it's in big stories in Politico and big stories in the Associated Press inside Hillary Clinton's secret takeover of the DNC. Oh, it's so criminal. It's so incredible. It's so evil. And then all these hosts on CNN and Fox say, well, the Clintons are done. Quit talking about them. That's because they want us to stop talking about them to shore up the Democratic Party. No, let's keep talking about them. I noticed the trolls on InfoWars and on News Wars and on Prison Planet, on our websites, they're all like, stop talking about her. We're sick of her. Okay, stop. Stop it. And there's news articles. Jones won't stop talking about Hillary. Why, here's an article from the Huffington Post, or here's an article from Raw Story, or here's an article from George Soros' Media Matters. How many times Alex Jones talked about Hillary? He talked about her more times than Trump because she's a monster and she's trying to take over. She's got her law firms literally coming after me. I'm in a war with her. But they don't want us to identify stumbling, bumbling Pelosi, insanely racist, moronic Maxine Waters. I mean, they're the ones destroying their own party. They're the ones killing their own brand that wasn't that good to begin with, but now their brand syphilis, their brand cyanide, their brand death. In fact, they've tried to expunge this photo. We can move it over so folks can see it. They've tried to expunge this photo off of the internet. It is a Getty's photo. By the way, we subscribe to Getty. You should pay the full price, so I'm allowed to use this all I want. Plus, it's just fair use to show it, even if I didn't subscribe. But it's not in their database anymore. But guess what? We saved it. Oh, look. And we've noticed any other true witch-like photos of her are gone. Like the one of her with Wasserman Schultz with her cackling. I mean, you talk about a horror movie cover. This is a demon. If you're a radio listener, Infowars.com/show, and you can see it. But here it is. Hillary superdelegate, why your vote doesn't count. We've got to retweet this and say, see the shock video where Hillary operatives admitted the plan to steal the nomination from Hillary. There it is, Hillary superdelegate. Why your vote doesn't count. February 12th, 2016, baby. Get today's news a year and a half early. See, why do they call us fake? Because we're not fake. And by the way, we're not even that smart. They were stealing this baby in front of God, country, with their pants off, with their hair on fire, running down the street like village idiots. And they'd play this mind game where they'd go, no, Mr. Jones, no one said that. She's winning fair and square. Why, she won New Hampshire. Why, she won California. And I'm like, no, they had the delegates, superdelegates, just say the days before what it would be. And in states where they didn't go along with the voting machines and at the precinct level, they would just take them and say, we're ignoring that and give it to her. And so who's been proven the platinum standard yet again? Infowars.com. Hillary superdelegate. Why your vote doesn't count. Infowars.com. Just bragging point blank into an Infowars microphone. Bernie delegate. DNC is replacing Sanders supporters with paid sheet fillers to create fake unity. Infowars.com. July 28, 2016. Paul Joseph Watson. Hundreds. WikiLeaks. Clinton surrogates wanted to fool bitching, that's a quote, bitching Bernie voters into supporting Hillary. They even had people dress up like Bernie supporters to go attack Trump supporters to make Democratic Party turn against Sanders supporters. Emergency. Hillary plans to steal election from Trump. Remember that? And she did. They called me crazy, said it was a conspiracy theory, said it wasn't happening. Hillary Clinton will try to steal election with illegal votes. And then Trump came out right after I put this out, said basically the same info. They matched up the words together and got really scared at that point, didn't they? But it's not like Trump just listened to me. He went and saw the video. I talked to him about it. He saw it. He checked it. And he said, Alex, don't worry about it. I'm already on top of it. He called me the day after I put out one video to talk about the video. He said, don't worry. I'm already on top of it. I know. So it's almost like what he already knows, then if somebody else tells him and it's exactly the way he already saw it, that's confirmation. Not that you told him something that he believed it. If he already knows it and then somebody else perfectly says it back to him the way he already sees it, then he goes click. Because you'll be talking to Trump and he'll say, da-da-da-da-da-da, and you'll say it back and he'll go, now let me finish. Da-da-da-da-da. He goes, well, that's good. Boom, conversation over. He's not looking for somebody to tell him what to say. He's looking for the tumblers to fall into place with verification of what he already gut level knows. That's what's happening. So we told you, you got involved, you were on the ground, you said, no, I'm getting chills right now. And we won the election, even though she stole 5 states and got caught inside the computers of 6 other states. Homeland Security, run by Jay Johnson, in the computers, trying to flip votes at the state level. And guess what? The state computer program controllers blocked you with local state police, and you lost because we were waiting for you, witch. Yeah, baby. Woo! Yeah. That's what it's all about. And we got thousands of articles and dozens of newscasts attacking me for saying she was stealing it from Bernie and planning to steal it from Trump. And then they'd say, oh, Jones is making it up. We're not going to try to block the electors in the Electoral College. And they did that. And now they say they're not planning violence tomorrow. And they didn't run an ad in the New York Times, which they did. Well, I have over 400 links on Google with Infowars.com at the end of it, where if you just search Hillary is stealing, Hillary plans to steal the nomination from Bernie, and then examples across the country as it was actually done. And then the Democrats on video bragging about it. Imagine my frustration. Oh, and Daria, I forgot one thing in my office. There's that New York Times article from Wednesday, full-page ad for Antifa uprising to, quote, drive Trump from office. I went back there and got sidetracked and didn't bring that up here. I want to show that again because it ties into all this. There's also photos of it on my Twitter account, Real Alex Jones. And if you go to the resistfascism.org website, they talk about how they bought a full-page ad, and they have a copy of it on their front page saying, welcome New York Times readers. Now, why is that important? Well, it ties into this election theft and the whole house of cards coming down. The election theft of the primaries by Hillary and the DNC establishment. Because why do they run a full-page ad in the New York Times on Wednesday, nationwide, saying the nightmare must end, the revolution begins November 4th, we're going to drive Trump and his regime from power. And you go to the sub-organizations funded by Soros, many of them are saying we're going to be violent. Even CNN says violence is necessary and okay to do. And separately, then they have articles every day saying, I'm a liar, this doesn't exist. And then they actually had trolls on my website and on literally dozens of other major publications, Salon, Newsweek, Time, saying, I'm insane. The New York Times did not run this and that this is fake news. Now, it's in the New York Times. You go to the bottom. It says refuse fascism. We've also got resist fascism. This is refusefascism.org. You go there. We just put it on screen. And it's got the full-page ad there saying, welcome New York Times writers. And we confirm with listeners in New York, in California, this is in the New York Times, okay? But again, why do they then say it's not true? Because they want their people organized and ready to go out and create disturbances and trigger a nationwide civil war, in their own words. They don't want us to be prepared and awake, knowing that this isn't some spontaneous uprising against Trump because, oh, we're so upset about the Mueller revelations. That's what they're now saying. They don't want us to know this is AstroTurf, that this is premeditated, that this is organized. They want to just make you think it's spontaneous, so they play these mind games with everybody because they're control freaks. They're cultists. They want to say, don't use the name mother and father. Don't use the word homosexual. Use the word gay. All of it is about telling you what words to use. And now saying more and more things are evil. Literature, English language, the classics are racist. Mathematics is racist. And even myself 5-6 years ago, I would laugh at this and say, that's just small groups of lunatics inside the echo chambers of universities and leftist government. No, this is their revolution of total control, and not because they're insane. Their minions are mentally ill and insane and in victimhood, but the people programming the whole thing know exactly what they're doing, because the whole thing is a program. Just like the cover of the same newspaper that day, Wednesday, November 1st, says mile-long Manhattan truck attack kills 8. No, a terrorist killed 8 with a truck, an Islamic terrorist. But see, they won't say that. It's mind control. That's why coming up, in fact, let's just play it now. Hillary said Trump is bad for basically putting down Islam, and somehow it's his fault this happened, when the very program that Hillary as Secretary of State and Obama as president and as Schumer as the main co-sponsor, or the sponsor in the Senate, of the diversification lottery, in Europe it's known as the cultural enrichment program, to bring in this guy who then brought in 28 of his family. Turns out almost all of them are on welfare, hate everyone around them. And their sponsor is a guy that ran over a bunch of people and killed them with a truck. And so they're on CNN with straight faces now saying, these things have big axles. Let's look at the power of these wheels. It should be harder to rent one of these. Just like they want a law to have a license to own a butcher knife, because their knife crime is way up. So it just restricts normal citizens walking into a store and buying a butcher knife or another large knife because, you know, you're all guilty. They mean business, people. But the greatest thing about it is it's bittersweet. I can't stand looking at Hillary. She makes me nauseous. But at the same time, now I'm starting to like her ugly face because she's killing the Democratic Party. She's killing the globalists. She's an example of arrogance that won't go away. She is a poster child. In fact, will somebody run back to the water cooler in the hallway? There's a cartoon hung on it. Somebody hung there. I meant to find it online and put it on the website, but I didn't. So I'll just show it now on TV when we come back. It's 3 kids up there trick-or-treating at somebody's house, and Hillary's a witch, obviously, and she won't go away. The other kids are walking away, and the folks are saying, oh, I get it. I see you're Hillary. You won't go away. So here's the lady that won't go away ever, turning reality around on the guy that tried to stop the attack, the guy that's been vindicated, the guy that's been proven right. Here she is, won't go away on television, as her and Soros organized this big uprising coming that they say isn't happening, after she stole the election in front of God and country, and the rest of the world, butt naked, did it, high noon, hand in the cookie jar, and here she is reversing reality on another fake news show run by comedians posing as reporters. Here it is.
Together, talk about what happened with the event that they are concerned about, but not to point fingers, not to scapegoat, right, not to try to set Americans against each other. And unfortunately, that just is not part of the job that our current president accepts or is willing to perform. Of course, he can have his own point of view and push his policies. That goes with the job.
Right.
But not to continue to divide Americans against each other. So he just doesn't have any empathy. And you can disagree with somebody over all kinds of partisan issues, but you want to have a president who can try to put himself into the shoes, the feelings of somebody else. And right, he has not been able to do that.
There you go. He hadn't been able to do it. We brought him in, let him kill you, and it's all your fault. Upside down world, just putting a good face on another con artist, another sociopath, another psychopath that doesn't get, hey, we found the 30 bodies in your basement, bro. You took photos of what you did. We got video of you basically drinking wine out of a little kid's skull. That's, before the media says I'm saying she literally did that, that's a turn of phrase, satire. The point is that it's an allegory to her being a serial killer, which she is in the real world for all the illegal wars, but not individually. She has somebody else do that for her. But we'll be back with the sinking of the Democratic ship as all the different party establishment people go on television and turn against her. Now, in 2017, the media is almost completely discredited. They have a very small minority of zombie-like people that still follow them. But they will throw hot coffee on you. They will physically attack you in their nest because they know they're losing control, even though they were living vicariously through reflected power of the globalists, even though they're not really part of it and are the biggest suckers in the whole equation. Doesn't matter. They're like sports team fans. They're getting nothing from it, but they feel and bask in the ceremonial victory of their warriors going out and defeating someone. But you're not going to get better hunting lands. You're not going to get better dwellings. You're not going to get better fishing areas by your warriors that just defeated another team. You pay to be part of the simulation to feel like you're part of this tribal victory. It's why you paint yourself up in war paint, why you act stupid. But see, you're just being camp followers like a lot of ancient armies had that followed behind them to get the spoils of war. But you're actually paying for the spoils. This war, being a patriot, returning the republic, getting lower taxes, getting our jobs back, promoting a culture of real freedom and competition, that is what will give you booty. That's what will give you spoils. That's what will give you not ill-gotten loot, but manna from heaven. And that's what we're fighting for. Fortune favors the bold, ladies and gentlemen. The fortune we seek is freedom in our time. And we're getting close. Not a utopia, but a lot closer. So, the big news, ladies and gentlemen, the big, huge, giant news that just absolutely is critical on so many fronts that we need to go over today is the fact that the Democrats are leaving the sinking ship in a really, really big way. And we've got to really think about what this is going to signify. Because even the next string that knows that Hillary and Obama and the globalists are really bad PR for them, even though they know that, they're still going to continue along with a lot of the same activities. So where should we start here? Elizabeth Warren agrees that Hillary Clinton rigged the DNC after she denied it and mocked Trump for it. Even CNN admits that? Wow. Talk about comeuppance. Talk about eating crow. Wolf Blitzer, shocking Hillary rigged the DNC. Here's another one. Trump, I'm disappointed the DOJ is not looking into the Dems, Podesta, and the whole election theft. I mean, that was a big deal, folks, and very illegal. Oh, but no, instead the media is just telling us how bad Trump is for criticizing radical Islam. And Michelle Obama says men are entitled and self-righteous because women protect them too much. That's right. Well, don't worry. Just take all your sons out and put them on Ritalin and give them extra vaccines till they have convulsions and die. That'll keep your boys in line. Because we all know boys are the problem, right? Because Michelle Obama, that ugly snapping turtle who told our school children what to eat, she said so. But let's go ahead and go to this first. Let's go ahead and go to Wolf Blitzer, shocking Hillary rigged the DNC. Here it is.
Congressman, while I have you, get to another topic. Very sort of shocking revelation from the former Democratic National Committee interim chair, Donna Brazile, who now says the Clinton campaign actually reached a formal deal before Donna Brazile arrived at the DNC to control the DNC long before Hillary Clinton was officially the nominee. She says this in a new book that is just coming out. In exchange for raising money and investing in the DNC, Hillary would control the party's finances, strategy, and all the money raised. That deal was signed in August of 2015, a year before Hillary Clinton actually won the party's presidential nomination. What's your reaction to this?
I haven't read the book yet. I look forward to reading the book. I know Donna Brazile. I think she's a brilliant thinker, and she's a former Hill staffer. And I'm always excited to hear what she has to say.
Because, as you know, the Democratic Party, the Democratic National Committee, not supposed to take sides in a contest for the presidential nomination. Bernie Sanders, presumably, he's reading all of this. His supporters are reading all of this. They're pretty upset to see there was this formal arrangement that was worked out between the Hillary Clinton campaign a year before she got the nomination and the DNC. You're a Democrat. You want to elaborate a little bit on this latest information we're now getting for Donna Brazile?
Well, I wasn't privy to any kind of deal. We were focused in Indiana, statewide, and even in the 7th District in terms of getting the vote out, making sure voters were engaged, making sure our constituents saw us working with locally elected officials to really talk about the changing tide that we saw in our country and how we can deal with that. I was enmeshed in that at the time.
By the way, do something real quick. Hit pause in the last 10 seconds. I want to show people who are TV viewers and describe this for radio listeners. More and more on CNN, even Fox, MSNBC, they don't show the White House, they don't show New York, they don't show D.C., they don't show the heartland. They show Russia always creeping in, and you see images of Red Square and the Kremlin behind Wolf Blitzer. So this is an overt, not just subliminal, but overt way. Everything they do is about manipulating. It's not an Islamic attack in New York that killed 8 and injured dozens. No, it was a truck attack. You see, it's the same thing. Oh, look, the focus is Russia. They're the focus as a classical diversion from what's going on in D.C. Well, we only look at that half the time now because he's got the White House on one side and then Russia on the other. And that's another subliminal or really overt image. See, the Russia is in control of the White House. While they're talking about how Hillary stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders, Blitzer spins it that, oh, you're not supposed to do that. It's unseemly. No, you did it in front of everyone and ignored the popular votes that violate election law and violate the Civil Rights Act. And you all tried to sell it, from George Will to Wolf Blitzer. They all tried to sell it, and it didn't work. You failed. Now, here is President Trump talking about the situation, which he talked about when it was happening, when it happened, and after it happened. And the controlled media said he was a liar. But we don't need Donna Brazile to tell us this. It was all public. And again, InfoWars told you first, get the news a year ahead, folks. That's what we do. This is a year and a half ahead at Infowars.com. Here's the president.
All I can tell you is this. There was no collusion. There was no nothing. It's a disgrace, frankly, that they continue. You ought to look at Hillary Clinton, and you ought to look at the new book that was just put out by Donna Brazil, where she basically bought the DNC and she stole the election from Bernie. So that's what you ought to take a look at.
You know what? We got to go to break. We're going to come back with more of this and get into the true criminal activities. And then he calls for a criminal investigation of Podesta, who was quarterbacking the entire operation while his brother and he quarterbacked the sellout to Russia, which they then projected onto yours truly, very defamatory, and of course onto the president. We'll be right back. Stay with us. So the president is coming out saying it's horrible what Bernie Sanders had done to him and his supporters, just like he said, as they were stealing the nomination. And then once they stole it, he said it was terrible. And then I said, if they try to steal it from Sanders and did, they're going to try to steal it from Trump. They're going to have illegals do it, folks voting in the names of dead people. It all got caught on tape all over the country. Trump said it was 3 million illegals voted. Harvard said no, it was 5.7. Illegals voting in the names of dead people or citizens voting repeatedly. Quite frankly, that's why they had to have Democrats come out and tell illegals, like Obama said, well, no, if you come here, you're allowed to vote. That's part of being in the country. Because on average, the illegals feel weird going and voting illegally. They've actually had trouble getting illegals to vote illegally. The favorite group that the Democrats use is homeless people. They usually pay them about $100, give them a 6-pack of beer each on the bus, but not too much, or they get too drunk, then give them their name on a piece of paper in the state they're in where there's no voter ID, no motor voter ID, and you just walk in and you vote 10 times on average. Arkansas stayed Democrat that way for 60 years. Now, New York, many other areas of the country. California, they didn't have to do that. They just said, we're having the delegates meet at this Democrat donor's house. They even had it in the local news to decide who would get the nomination in California, who would get the vote. Then they just accordingly gave it to Hillary. Bernie Sanders won. But they had to have the numbers showing she won, so they took those numbers at the state commission. And see, a lot of this is frustrating because they hid it in plain view in California and just said they were stealing it. But then on national news, they said Jones is crazy and others are crazy and Sanders supporters are crazy. Nobody's taking your vote away. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse here. It's just crazy. And it's obviously a civil rights violation. It's so criminal. So we're going to get back to the clip of the president and then even Pocahontas having to agree with him. But first, DNA Force has the BioPQQ, the CoQ10, and all these other known concentrated organic compounds that are the only documented compounds where you can actually make claims, hundreds of them, that the government even says, yeah, you can actually make those claims. Saw palmetto is the same thing. I mean, you can make claims about it helping prostate massively because it's just so documented, no one can deny it. Well, this is, again, a true nutraceutical. Competing brands are $300 to $600. Ours is a good deal at $149. It is our Rolls-Royce product. It's $112.46. That's 25% off right now, despite the fact it's been sold out for almost 4 months. It is the Rolls-Royce product that we have, and it's so good at detoxifying the cells, at getting the toxins out of the cells that are admittedly shrinking the telomeres. So it isn't that it grows your telomeres. It blocks the chemicals and gets them out of the cells that basically fries the telomeres and then ages your cells so they can't divide as many times, making you get older. DNA Force. Now, we're still running specials on colloidal silver. That is going to end this weekend. You got 50% off on it. And that is obviously very, very affordable. 30% off on Super Male Vitality. But leading brands of colloidal silver, the same brand, on average of $25 in Whole Foods. Ours is, what, $13 right now. Super Male Vitality is, again, 30% off. And we have the Anthroplex special. It's about to end, the dry form of Super Male Vitality. So InfoWarsLife.com, InfoWarsStore.com, or 888-253-3139. We also have Bomb Defense, sold out for months. Highest quality, concentrated, probiotic, 25% off, despite the fact that we can't keep it in stock. I want to incentivize new folks to get it. 10% off when you sign up for auto ship. And even if we sell out of DNA Force or Bomb Defense or things like that, we hold back for whoever's on auto ship at the original discounted price with the additional 10% off. Cancel anytime for free. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. And is an active rebellion against the globalists when you buy the products. So again, thank you so much. Go read studies for yourself about bio-PQQ, PQ, CoQ10, and all the rest of it. And it's truly amazing. We have a lot of information at InfoWarsStore.com, InfoWarsLife.com on it. Okay, let's go back to that clip of the president boarding Marine One and just talking about the general corruption going on in Washington and how blaring it is as we learn about the Podestas with the Clintons rigging the election, as we learn about their Uranium One connections. Everything they say we've done, obviously they've been caught. That's their tactic. It's blown up in their face. The Democratic Party is now turning against them with Donna Brazile, former head of the DNC, saying it was all rigged. The money was stolen. Everything was rigged. Everything was a fraud. She lost everywhere. It was all a giant scam. Wow. That means they're turning against her. Now Pocahontas. Now Wolf Blitzer. But here's the president from the beginning getting criticized for going with our intel from the Democrats, including video that we alone got, resurfaced video today to Infowars.com of a superdelegate explaining how they would steal the election. But he didn't think it was stealing. He thought it was totally legitimate. Well, guess what? You failed, Bubba. So let's go to the president.
All I can tell you is this. There was no collusion. There was no nothing. It's a disgrace, frankly, that they continue. You ought to look at Hillary Clinton, and you ought to look at the new book that was just put out by Donna Brazile, where she basically bought the DNC and she stole the election from Bernie. So that's what you ought to take a look at. What we're doing is every time we're attacked from this point forward, and it took place yesterday, we are hitting them 10 times harder. So when we have an animal do an attack like he did the other day on the west side of Manhattan, we are hitting them 10 times harder. They claimed him as a soldier. Good luck. Every time. Believe. Thank you. I will see you. I will see you in Pearl Harbor. We're going to Pearl Harbor. I don't know. I'm really not involved with the Justice Department. I'd like to let it run itself. But honestly, they should be looking at the Democrats. They should be looking at Podesta and all of that dishonesty. They should be looking at a lot of things. And a lot of people are disappointed in the Justice Department, including me. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
A true fighter, ladies and gentlemen. Beautiful. It's always darkest for the dawn. Let's go to Pocahontas now. Elizabeth Warren agrees that Hillary campaign rigged the DNC after she denied it and mocked Trump about it for over a year. Here is Pocahontas, who has zero Native American blood in her. Here it is.
Today from former Democratic National Committee Chairwoman Donna Brazile that the Clinton campaign, in her view, did rig the presidential nominating process by entering into an agreement to control day-to-day operations at the DNC. The Clinton campaign controlling the party's staffing, strategy, finances, communications, and that agreement was entered into in August 2015, a year before she defeated Senator Bernie Sanders. This must shock you.
Look, this is a real problem. But what we've got to do as Democrats now is we've got to hold this party accountable. When Tom Perez was first elected chair of the DNC, the very first conversation I had with him is to say, you have got to put together a Democratic Party in which everybody can have confidence that the party is working for Democrats rather than Democrats are working for the party. And he's being tested now. This is a test for Tom Perez. And either he's going to succeed by bringing Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders representatives into this process, and they're going to say it's fair, it works, we all believe it, or he's going to fail. And I very much hope he succeeds. I hope for Democrats everywhere.
Right.
I hope for Bernie and for all of Bernie's supporters that he's going to succeed.
Very quickly, Senator.
That's Jake Tapper, who just said that right after the truck attack that Allah Akbar is so beautiful. That's a quote. It's normally so beautiful. Coming up, we have a powerful clip from back at the DNC when almost all the protesters weren't against InfoWars. They weren't mad at us there. We had people buying our crew beer. 95% of the demonstrators were real. They weren't Antifa that they send out to attack people that the DNC sends out, that Soros does. They were real people, and they were saying, we're going voting for Trump, and Hillary, it's over for you, scumbag, and it's over for the Democratic Party. Well, they all arrogantly thought they could steal it one more time, and now have turned their party into a coastal elite party that is even beginning to lose they could completely be gone as a party within another 4 years. And you know me, folks, I don't put perfume on pigs. Coming up, we got the video, look right there, of the superdelegate bragging in February 12th, how they would steal the election. I mean, it's just, we have them. But first, we've got the Bernie supporters back in last year at the DNC saying, you're going to lose and we're coming for you, witch. And boy, were they proven right. Hour number 2 straight ahead. Spread the word. It's an act of resistance. Break the censorship blockades. It's important to go back and revisit recent history because that's the keys to the future. And I keep talking about the pedophile rings in Hollywood coming down in D.C. and globalism in trouble and every weapon they use, NFL against America ends up destroying itself. This is a big time of victory. But if you go back a year ago or so to the DNC event they had, the protesters weren't AstroTurf. Bernie folks overall were real people. They weren't just the Antifa. And they weren't mad at Trump. They were mad at Hillary stealing the nomination, which is now all breaking and is criminal. This is rats leaving the sinking ship. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen.
My message is to Hillary Clinton, drop out. You have made a mockery of our democracy.
She's not a progressive candidate, and I don't intend to vote for her in November. I'll be voting for Jill Stein if the Democratic establishment has their way and proceeds with the coronation of Hillary, despite the will of the people being behind Bernie Sanders.
How would you describe Hillary in your own words?
I think I'll go with Donald Trump's on this one. She's crooked.
She's part of the Clinton crime family, and she needs to be put in prison right away. Okay. What her and Debbie Wasserman Schultz did to all of the voters in this country is unfathomable. But they haven't put her in jail yet.
Hillary Clinton's followers have no problem, and they have denied election fraud.
Hillary Clinton is in a syndicate that is controlling.
See, these are real Democrats.
Government and no one.
They're somewhat misguided, but they're good people. They're not Antifa.
I'm outraged.
They're not devil worshippers.
My right to vote. I don't want government corruption.
And they're killing the Democratic Party.
Corruption. You're not wrong about the...
Look, America's coming back too, folks.
Well, I mean, she's been corrupt since '92.
Yeah.
When Bill was elected. And now it's just getting that much worse. I mean, she made, what, $21 million from speaking to different banks and Wall Streeters?
Yeah. Well, do you think a lot of those, quote, speaking fees were kickbacks for deals?
I think anyone who doesn't is naive.
Now listen, Hillary Clinton, I didn't vote for you in 2008. I voted for Obama because he wasn't you. You know what? You're a liar. You're a cheat. We don't raise our children to act this way. And you're going to further it. You got superdelegates that you bought before the election. I'm in Michigan, Hillary. We uncrowned you, you fracking queen. And I'm going to tell you what. All your superdelegates that are standing behind you in Michigan, the finger isn't on them when it comes August and November to vote. We're voting you out. We're going for a new Congress. You don't win anything because we're not going away. Our job is just beginning, and our job is to shut you down. F you, Hillary Clinton.
And all day I've noticed a disconnect between Bernie supporters and Hillary Clinton. I've interviewed probably nearly a dozen people so far at several different protests. I had not one of them told me they were going to vote for Hillary.
No. I haven't found, the only Hillary supporters I've found here is CNN. The CNN, and that's, I probably shouldn't say that, that's kind of mean, actually. But I haven't run into any Hillary supporters either.
What do you think about Hillary Clinton's support for TPP?
I think it's phony. Basically, she called it the gold rule of trade agreements, and now during the campaign, she flip-flopped to try to keep up with Bernie Sanders. She'll pass it. They're going to try to pass it through after November between her and then. If they don't pass it then, I'm sure she's going to make a good excuse to pass it. I don't trust her. I'm not voting for her. Simple as that. I'm not voting for corporation.
Hillary cheats. Now, the last couple of weeks, she's not up in double digits against Trump. She's into 2 or 4 points.
Or losing.
She is losing in swing states, which has not happened in decades.
They'll support Jill Stein. Some of them might go to Gary Johnson, some might go to Stein, but I would say 80% of them are not voting for Hillary.
If they want to anoint that little effing whatever she is, we're going to lose to Trump, and it's on them. The games that they played and what they have done to us.
We told you first, because we were reading what the establishment was actually saying in their internal publications and at their meetings that we infiltrated, that Hillary Clinton was planning to steal the election from Bernie Sanders. And they indeed then did that. The Republicans tried that with Trump. Then they tried to stop him at the nomination process. Then they tried to stop him being seated with his delegates on January 6th of this year. They failed. So now as we approach the one-year anniversary of Trump's election next week, for at least 3 months, Antifa, the George Soros-funded groups, scores of them, with hundreds of millions of dollars behind them just in the last few months. Soros recently put $18 billion into a foundation to defeat the breakup of the EU and to defeat the libertarian populist takeover of America. If you go to refusefascism.org, it's run by the same Soros-funded group and the woman that founded Occupy Wall Street. So they began saying a few months ago, it begins November 4th in blocking highways. We covered it. News, corporate news, establishment news began to say we were lying. It didn't exist. On Wednesday, they ran a full-page ad nationwide in the New York Times and Refuse Fascism and Resist Fascism and all the rest of them have it linked on their website. A copy of the ad saying, welcome, New York Times visitors. But then they have articles all over the news saying, I'm making it up, nothing's coming November 4th. So I guess if their communist uprising's a dud, they just say, look, Alex made it up. Or so you don't get ready for it, so you're not watching, so they can spin tomorrow's events if some patsy or some other right-winger runs over somebody or shoots somebody. They don't want to pre-debate about this, that it's their fault. Kind of like they said Trump was responsible for what happened in Virginia and Charlottesville. But 3 weeks later, when Antifa attacked prayer meetings and other events and wouldn't let free speech happen, even Pelosi had to say, okay, they're a terror organization. I wanted to ask William F. Jasper, who's an expert on Antifa and its communist roots, and been tracking it for years, what he thought about this and what he thinks they're really planning. Because they say tomorrow's just the kickoff. We're not saying civil wars tomorrow. This is an ongoing hashtag hunt Republicans, Congressman Scalise being shot, the riots, the knockout game of white people, the media saying being white's inherently racist. All this is classic Marxist, Leninist playbook right out of Saul Alinsky to destabilize the country. So we'll talk about its history coming up in the next segment. But briefly, what is William F. Jasper, best-selling author, researcher, one of the head researchers at the John Birch Society, been fighting him for 35, 40 years. What does he think with the New American Magazine, newamericanmagazine.com, newamerican.com, what does he think their real plan is? Because I'm a little confused when they say, we're going to kill you, we're going to get you, we're going to overthrow. They say the main mission is to drive his regime from power starting tomorrow, and they will not stop until it happens on the 100th anniversary of the Bolshevik Revolution in their own words. But then they say we're insane and it's not true. William F. Jasper.
Well, Alex, it is a multi-pronged attack that we're witnessing here. And tomorrow, November 4th, which refusefascism.org, one branch of Antifa, has set up as the big event to kick this off, they are one of the most openly violent communist revolutionary groups. The Revolutionary Communist Party is the real force behind them. Antifa, refusefascism.org, is a front group. And there's no secret about that. They run out of the same address. They're run by the same people, Sunsara Taylor, Bob Avakian, Carl Dix. All of the Revolutionary Communist Party functionaries are the ones who run refusefascism.org. They're unapologetic Marxist-Leninists who are also Maoists. That means they idolize Mao Zedong, the mass murdering dictator of communist China. They are part of the new Red Guard in America. The Red Guards, of course, being Mao's millions of students whom he set loose all across China to terrorize the people of China, including the Communist Party members whom he wanted to move out and consolidate his
And by the way,
control.
we've had these very groups attack us in Austin, and they have hundreds of websites and big numbers now. They say the violent revolution starts November 4th. So I'm asking you, I want you to go back to the history, but why is then all the major leftist publications lying and saying nothing's happening, these groups don't exist, these full cover page $100,000 ads don't exist? What is the psyop there?
Well, there's several possible explanations for that. One is that all along they have been trying to present all of these so-called protests, which inevitably devolve into riots because they're planned to be riots. The protests are what they call united front efforts to bring out a lot of people who wouldn't necessarily get involved in riots, but who they can either pay, as you pointed out, they're either the rent-a-mobs that are being paid, that has been documented, or they are people that they've been able to get out because of their interest in the sanctuary cities and immigration, or in the LGBT rights, pro-abortion, Planned Parenthood. So they focus on a number of these popular front issues, get the people out there, make it appear that this is a popular, spontaneous event, but actually they have a pre-planned agenda already in place. They know they're
exactly. They want to hit us with our feet flat and then be able to spin the narrative however they want, saying, oh, these are loving anti-racism groups, not classic, hardcore, Marxist-Leninist communists whose heroes are Mao, Lenin, mainly a Mao, and who do, like the Weathermen, want to put people in re-education camps.
And one of the things that you're almost certain to see tomorrow, and in the aftermath of whatever happens, it was revealed, it was telegraphed yesterday on the revolution.com. That's the newspaper, online and print, for the Revolutionary Communist Party. And they had they have in there a page which says how to get popular involvement. And in there, they say one of the things that we have been doing is working with churches. And they show, they don't identify the church, but they talk to a minister. And they say this minister says he was very much involved in the Occupy movement, and he's ready to come on board openly and help them with this, the Antifa movement. But he says, what you need to do is create the incident, like Charlottesville, because this is why this is important, because in Charlottesville, they had a ministerial group, a bunch of left-wing communist, Marxist, and socialist clergymen, including, as I pointed out a number of times, the Reverend Cornel West, who is frequently given millions of dollars worth of free publicity on all.
Sure, and clearly they're wanting to have, when they start the violence, they're looking to have some other group out there they can clash with its own connections, former heads of Occupy, Wall Street groups, then running the so-called white supremacist groups. This is pretty synthetic.
Well, so then he's saying, so what you have to do is create the context. Then we, the clergymen, we can say, yes, in the name of humanity, in the name of peace, President Trump stepped down. So that's exactly what the Refuse Fascism, although they're not saying, yesterday in his speech, Bob Avakian, the head of the Revolutionary Communist Party, during the course of his rambling attacks on America and on Trump, he threw in there as protection, we will peacefully bring about the overthrow of President Trump. He wants to use that as protection so that he can't be charged with inciting revolution. But that obviously is not what they have in mind. That wasn't peaceful in Charlottesville. They had the ministers all there so that they could be endorsing the Antifa movement and saying that Antifa saved us, and to call for the overthrow of the Trump administration.
Wow, fascinating information. That's why we got him on. William F. Jasper, the New American. I know he's been the editor over there and one of their top researchers, and more amazing books and films he's made that really are just the platinum standard of understanding what we're facing. I want to come back then and go into the history of it, have him recap what he was saying, and go through what to expect and how we counter it. Straight ahead, But man, to see big money, the Democratic Party, the establishment, Soros, all trying to finance a communist revolution that is smokescreened as a anti-racism movement is truly disgusting. We'll be right back. William F. Jasper is our guest. He's got to leave pretty soon to a meeting. The communists funded by George Soros, who've overthrown countless other countries, officially are running this overthrow the country kickoff tomorrow. And then the media is saying Jones is crazy, he's making it up. I hate to make myself the center of the story. The media keeps doing that. We were the first to start exposing it here. And now they got full-page ads in major newspapers, not just the New York Times. We're going to plot their history and what William F. Jasper thinks they're up to here in a moment. But briefly, we're not communist. We're not funded by robber barons. Communists are always funded by ultra-rich because they want consolidated control over nation states they're outside of. We're funded by you. We have high-quality supplements, nutraceuticals, books, videos, T-shirts, you name it, at InfoWarsStore.com. And it takes money to fund a counter-revolution. It takes money to defend the republic. We don't get stimulus money like MSNBC. We don't get banker bailouts. So we've got a lot of limited edition T-shirts. We've got a lot of high-quality products. We've got DNA Force that's been sold out for almost 4 months. It's back in stock, 25% off. We have new Trump T-shirts that are great to trigger folks and exercise your free speech. We have our great probiotic Biome Defense back in stock. It is 25% off as well. So we've got the highest quality nutraceuticals right down to the highest quality colloidal silver for $13 or whatever. So it's all there. Great new I Stand With Trump shirts where the T is like the president's hair. So a lot of ways to have fun and meet like-minded people. But whatever you do, please support the broadcast because you fund the operation. Okay, Mr. Jasper, get into the history and other key points people need to know about what we're about to see after this question. In my memory or my life or studying modern times, we haven't seen communists launch something this big, I don't think ever saying overthrow a president openly. They're usually saying overthrow the class system or, free the liberated peoples, classic exploitation of different sociological divisions. This appears to be the most brazen attempted open communist overthrow camouflaged as a race-class war I've ever seen in our history, or is that incorrect?
Well, this is the closest thing. You are correct. What we saw in the 60s and 70s with all of the campus riots and the burnings of our inner cities, the race wars, the race riots, those were huge. Those were huge, and those were funded. We were exposing that clear back then, showing how these were being funded by the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, how the student revolutionary communist groups, the SDS, etc. They were going back and forth over to the communist youth congresses in Czechoslovakia and Moscow, in Vietnam, in China. And the media was covering this up just as they are today. In fact, they were usually, when they did cover the SDS and the student rioters, always did it in a sympathetic manner, always tried to play upon the sins of our past, of slavery, etc., in order to invoke guilt and to give legitimacy to these protests, which weren't protests, they were actual efforts at insurrection, at overthrowing the government. We have, back then, as you pointed out, it was primarily class warfare, and they did bring race into it. Now, what has happened now over the last 40 years, those revolutionaries of the 1960s became the college professors and the politicians, the elected politicians and the bureaucrats who've been in power for now 2 generations. They have raised up several million young people as cadres who have taken to the streets, who they can push hot buttons on, who don't mostly don't consider themselves communists or Marxist-Leninists. They have not read any of those works. There's a small cadre of those that have, but most of them haven't. But they can be brought into the ranks of the street protests by citing racism, sexism, xenophobic, Islamophobic, all the different hate rhetoric that the left invokes to bring about indignation and to bring support for their causes. And you see this on the Revolutionary Communist Party, the Marxist Workers' World Party, the Communist Party USA. All of the hardcore communist groups now have on their front pages and in all of their websites home pages that are geared specifically to LGBT rights, to race, to anti-cop, to all the different to environmental issues. So they're trying to bring in all of these different groups, and they go into that in that same article on the Revolutionary.
Sure, they're trying to jerk everybody's chain, inflame things, try to use all these different angry groups, hoping somebody goes out, is violent, somebody else does something back, so the media can focus on the violent response back, and then say, see, the civil war's on, it's Trump's fault, he needs to step down, and then, oh, Mueller's got him on the Russia thing. This is all very well choreographed.
Well, and the thing that is, as you mentioned, choreography, the establishment corporate media is essential to this, because they keep emphasizing and re-emphasizing all of these talking points by the communists, which is that Trump is against the environment, Trump is against women, Trump is against black people, Trump is against all. And
they never tell you, hey, it's communist groups that link on the website. I mean, wow, you might want to know that this main Soros group is communist.
Well, and that is, as we point out in the article that we did on this online yesterday that I had, this is at least the second time that the New York Times has run a full-page ad of the Revolutionary Communist Party's refusefascism.org newspaper ad. They did it in January, right before the inauguration, trying to gin up support for violent attacks on the Trump inaugural.
And by the way, I was there. It took me 3.
You were right in the thick of it, and that many of those Antifa people that were there were brought there by the Revolutionary Communist Party and by that ad in the New York Times.
And they were beating up families, and they would target women specifically. I mean, I'm walking towards an entrance, and these bloody women are coming by. I mean, middle-aged women, and I got mad, and I couldn't believe it. I had big old, huge military former bodyguard guys, and we were throwing them out of the way and stuff, and the police came and stopped us.
Well, and that's a very important point, that here's where Americans really need to get on their politicians who are, one, making the police stand down. You've done our stories on that. We did a major story on that, showing specifically in Charlottesville, but then in a number of other cities as well, that the police have been ordered to stand down, or in the case of Charlottesville, Governor McAuliffe, who has been to the Bilderberg conferences, and he's one of those who's been vetted as a candidate for our next Democratic presidential candidate. He took over, had his state police take over, and pushed the demonstrators together so that they wouldn't have it.
You know, I know you've got to go, but do 5 more minutes on what you expect them to do tomorrow, where you see this going, how we counter it with William F. Jasper, the editor at the New American Magazine, best-selling author, and so much more. Then I'm going to continue on with the Democrats leaving the sinking ship all over the place. They're turning against the Clintons. What does that signify? What's the next shoe to drop straight ahead? And Trump's calling for criminal prosecution of Podesta. And William F. Jasper. We sit here covering all this, that $18 billion Soros has put into a foundation. He spends $500 million a year conservatively. You got the Ford, Carnegie, Rockefeller foundations, all the same groups funding NPR. And you go out and it's full-page ads in major newspapers, and you follow the link, and it's to admitted communist groups. And then they have articles in Newsweek and Salon saying, Jones just made up. There's full-page ads. There isn't. Who reads this stuff? Where you just are lied to over and over and over and over again. We told you that Trump was going to release the JFK files. Happened. We broke that. We told you that they were stealing it from Sanders. It happened. That's why they hate us, folks, is because we tell the truth. Now they're misrepresenting what we say is coming tomorrow. They're trying to cause Charlottesville's all over the country tomorrow. William F. Jasper, editor of the New American Magazine. In closing, in 5 minutes, recap who we're facing, what's going on, what you predict's going to happen, and what we can do to counter it.
Well, I'll start by what we can do to counter it, because sometimes we don't get to that because of the press of time. Two real important things. One, very immediate. Americans have to call on their politicians to enforce the laws, to let the police enforce the law. One of the most crucial things to understand about Antifa, of course, their signature is wearing black and masks. They're masking themselves. Many of our states, including all of the major states where the huge incidents have been happening, the riots in California, in Oregon, and Washington, D.C., New York, have anti-mask laws. Those were enacted in the 1940s to stop the Ku Klux Klan. So wearing a mask in the commission of a crime or at a protest or whatnot is, in most of these states, a felony. And so we saw at Auburn University, Alabama has an anti-mask law passed against the Ku Klux Klan. So the Ku Klux Klan, ironically, the Antifa people accuse Trump of being KKK. They say no Trump, no KKK. They're the ones that are emulating and imitating the KKK. They're wearing masks just like the Ku Klux Klan to terrorize people and to get away with their crimes. The police need to enforce the anti-mask laws. That means, as at Auburn University in Alabama, when the Antifa showed up there to stop a speech, the police were standing there and said, take off your mask. They forced them to take off their masks, and guess what? There wasn't any riot because they knew they would be identified. They'd get hit with felony charges. That's a very simple thing. It's a very reasonable thing. We simply say, okay, take off your masks. Many of the states also refuse to do not allow demonstrators to carry weapons like that, as they have been beating people with clubs and metal poles, etc. They need to enforce those laws. We saw you opened your segment with the shots of the LA freeway, the 101, where the Antifa were standing there with the signs. November 4, it begins, blocking traffic. They blocked traffic there for, I think, half hour or so. A few months earlier, back in, a year earlier, in 2016, right after the election, they blocked it for many hours.
And by the way, people routinely die because of it. Ambulances, emergency vehicles. It isn't a game when people got kids to pick up, you name it, or jobs to block a major highway in a place like
emergency
LA.
Vehicles, police, fire, ambulances. These are serious things. This is public safety, and they're claiming they have a right to do this. They didn't like the election. Some of the people interviewed said, well, we got done crying, and now we're going to act. Well, okay.
They should go block the Capitol or the White House. They shouldn't go block highways.
Yeah, so anyway, we need to insist that our politicians stop catering to these people. Most of the places where we see this happening, of course, is where left-wing so-called progressive Democrats control the city and county governments, and they tell the police to stand down. You saw those demonstrators, terrorists there, stopping the LA freeway. There were only 8 of them. They had 4 police cars all around them. The whole time, didn't arrest any of them, just stood there and watched them. Why? Because the police were told, no, you can't interfere with this. And so here we have collusion in sedition here. They're calling for the overthrow of our country. Elected officials who have taken an oath of office to support and uphold and defend the Constitution are colluding and conspiring with these seditionists. And so
they're aiding and abetting when they don't do their job. We should put them on notice right now.
Absolutely. So those are immediate things that we can do, and we need to expose the politicians who are aiding and abetting them.
And citizen journalists, I wouldn't politically identify, or they may attack you, can go out and also videotape Antifa. Just expect them to be at your capital or any big city. You're going to see the Red Guard marching. They're coming out of the rat holes, documenting things. I think that's also critical.
Oh, that's very important. What you're doing and what all the citizen journalists out there are doing with all of their cameras, that's essential, because it's documenting what is happening and it's identifying who the criminals are, who the traitors are. They keep talking about treason against Trump, they're engaged in treason and trying to overthrow the elected, legitimate government of the United States.
And he's trying to bring the republic back. They're literally trying to overthrow the Constitution in the country. That is treason by definition. 60 seconds, I know you got to go. William F. Jasper, other key tidbits.
Yes, the other key thing we hit about in our January issue on Soros, the god that failed. You mentioned Soros's $18 billion that he just put into there. All over the world, President Orban of Hungary has been pointing out that he is doing the same thing there, trying to overthrow the governments of Europe. We need to reinstitute the congressional investigations, subpoena his records and all of those groups. That is, use court subpoenas, bring in those people who are all these Antifa groups, these protester groups, find out the money trail, document it, and start prosecuting. We know from what is publicly available, but we really have to get into the real audits of these organizations, these tax-exempt foundations.
Well, the good news is, thanks to the tireless work of yourself and so many others for decades, and your parents 50-something years ago, 60 years ago, helping start the John Birch Society, we now know the enemy is, and Soros is identified. They're in trouble. William F. Jasper, thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex.
Let's go to a Prager University piece on comparisons of Nazism and communism. Here it is.
When people describe particularly evil individuals or regimes, why is it that they use the terms Nazi or fascist, but almost never communist? Given the unparalleled amount of human suffering communists have caused, why is communist so much less a term of revulsion than Nazi? Communists killed 70 million people in China, more than 20 million people in the Soviet Union, not including about 5 million Ukrainians, and almost 1 out of every 3 Cambodians. And communists enslaved entire nations in Russia, Vietnam, China, Eastern Europe, North Korea, Cuba, and much of Central Asia. They ruined the lives of well over 1 billion people. So why doesn't communism have the same terrible reputation as Nazism? Widespread ignorance of the communist record. Whereas both right and left loathe Nazism and teach its evil history, the left, and I'm talking about the left, not traditional liberals, like Harry Truman or John F. Kennedy, has never loathed communism. And since the left dominates academia, almost no one teaches communism's evil history. Communism is based on nice-sounding theories. Nazism isn't. It's based on heinous-sounding theories. Intellectuals in general, including, of course, the intellectuals who write history, are seduced by words, so much so that they deem actions as less significant than words. For that reason, they haven't focused nearly as much attention on the horrific actions of communists as they have on the horrific actions of the Nazis. They dismiss the evils of communists as perversions of true communism. Until the left and all the institutions influenced by the left acknowledge how evil communism has been, we will continue to live in a morally confused world.
Thank you from Prager University, Mr. Prager. We'll be back. Stay with us. You know, I've talked about Hollywood and the degeneracy, the arrogance, because only people that want to sell out America, only people that are scum are accepted basically at the heights of Hollywood. And if they catch you trying to be a libertarian, a Christian, a conservative, an Orthodox Jew, whatever it is, if it doesn't want to defile the population, they want to get rid of you. And now, as the ship begins to sink, let's put this up on screen if we can. Harvey Weinstein photographed the prescription drug haul. And it is a briefcase literally loaded with every prescription drug you could imagine under the sun. Thousands and thousands of tablets. Uppers, downers. You better believe ecstasy. Whole 9 yards. Ladies and gentlemen, these are delusional, drugged out, whacked out individuals. I've been at Hollywood parties with cases just like this are popped open. People say, what do you want? And I'm like, I'm going back to my hotel. You have a good night. I mean, as bad as I get, it's a couple shots of Jack Daniels or Jameson's, and I don't even do that anymore. But can you imagine the mindset of these people and what the women out there to get opioids that'll have their teeth removed just to get one more bottle or get back surgery to get another bottle. I mean, this is just total pell-mell decadence. And then they want to foist it all on us as an act of domination. But the Weinsteins are the Renfields put in charge by the real Draculas that you don't ever see who are behind the scenes. But why is he coming down? NYPD detective, there is enough evidence to arrest Weinstein. Now they've completely suspended production on final season of House of Cards, as it's reported that Kevin Spacey would run up and grab men's genitals in front of everyone and ask to have sex with them. And again, they're only trying to flood the consciousness with this to stop the pedophilia. What did I tell you over and over again months ago and years ago? Harassment of women, which is not good, is the cover for the rape of women. But then they only cover the harassment to cover up the real epidemic in the elites, not the general public. They say there's an epidemic in the general public when it's really in the elites. Then it's really men trying to rape men in Hollywood, 8 to 2. That's about the consensus. 80% of it's men trying to rape men with power lust. It's about power. Psychopaths like Spacey and others. It's all just about do whatever you want, do as thou wilt, stomp around, you're in charge. And then below that, you get into the pedophilia, and then you get into the snuff films and the devil worship. So the bottom of the rat hole is snuff films and is devil worship. But here's the thing. Most people involved in that can't speak out because they're accomplices to it, even if they just knew and didn't say anything out of fear. But I'm predicting that within the next 6 months, ritual murder and actual rape of toddlers as young as 2 years of age will come out, because we know it's what they do. Artist claims, let's put that back on screen, Kevin Spacey tried to rape him when he was 15. Oh, it's another one. I would call him a pedophile and a sexual predator, the unnamed, now 48-year-old man told Vulture. And it's all coming out. For every person that refused, 10 got held down and raped. And Disney and Nickelodeon and all of these things, the soda clubs, as they were called in L.A. for kids, where they got to come in, they were little actors and meet with other producers and people, and the whole thing was a pickup scene for kids. Then they'd say, you're a little old for me, 15. What's your little brother like? He's 9 years old? And we can make you a big star, but I really don't want to have sex with you, they'd tell them. No, I want your 5-year-old sister. And then they'd meet with the parents that want child stars and say, listen, you want your kid to make a couple $100,000 a year, maybe make millions a year? I want your 3-year-old daughter. You're going to be accomplices to it. In fact, you're going to join me. And I've got stacks of news here today where major Soros brokerage firm heads and others would brag to friends, hey, I don't just screw kids and torture women. I rape my daughter. That's in the news today. Now, you want to know the people working for mainstream media that cover up for this? When guys are at public parties bragging, hey, I raped my little daughter. What do you think they want to do to you and your family? These are guys with briefcases full of pills. And again, these are Renfields. Renfield supplied people to Dracula. Now, I told you that 6 months ago that people like Weinstein's are Renfields, the producers. The people behind them. There it is, Soros fund manager accused of raping, torturing victims in sex dungeon. Had a whole building he had for it. Woman claims prominent trader also bragged about raping his own daughter. And of course, he's a high-up operative of guess who, ladies and gentlemen? A guy that told 60 Minutes, I'm not ashamed of being a Nazi. I just did what the market said. If I didn't do it, somebody else would do it. Just look at that ghoulish look in these guys' eyes. And the women, too, man. You go to these parties, they're all glared up with that evil. They've all done it. And they're all just glaring about how it's all about them. They always have the same look. Camera, please. Can't do the exact look because I don't have the total spirit of it, but I can imitate it more like a, oh, look how big we are. Look how great. We can do whatever we want. How many years ago did I tell you that's the look? Go to a Hollywood party and tell, hello, Alex. Are you ready to have some fun? No, I'm going to leave now. I'm like, are you space aliens? What's up with you people? I mean, that's what I picked up. It was like aliens vacation here or something and like jack into their minds or something and then rape and kill. I mean, I don't, it's just like Predator, but instead of it being like he hunts in the jungle, he just jacks in and possesses somebody and then they just run around doing this and like, this is the alien invasion. I mean, I'm not literally saying that, but you know what? If it turns out, it's like Rowdy Piper says in They Live, he goes, look at this formaldehyde face with these sunglasses. I knew it'd be something like this. I mean, really at a gut level, that's what, I mean, why would you have whole groups of people that want to devil worship and rip little kids' tongues out? I mean, you know. They've always got like real weak little demon Slimer creatures like Weinstein going, It's kind of the little front goblins. I'm up against these people, though, and you know they hate us. They're coming after us, and that's fine. I just want to win in the fight. We need you to go to InfoWarsStore.com. We usually get products, books, videos, T-shirts. Sign up for auto ship, 10% off. DNA Force is back in. You owe it to yourself, your family to get it. It's amazing, 25% off. Biome Defense, the amazing probiotic, back in, 25% off. We got a bunch of specials ending on Anthroplex, the male-female enhancement, stamina, libido, you name it, and a bunch of other stuff ends this weekend. DNA Force will continue for maybe another week or so, as well as Biome Defense, but it's hard to source, so please take advantage of it today. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. We have the producer from the Open Secret film about Hollywood pedophilia coming up. Stay with us. In the last segment, I was getting into top hedge fund managers, buddies with Soros, reportedly with dungeons, bragging about raping their young daughters. That's in the news. You've got Harvey Weinstein photographed with prescription drug haul, a giant attaché case full of every drug you can imagine. And I was saying, you wait. In the next 6 months, it's going to come out that they're doing child snuff films in Hollywood. Well, that's because I know it's going to come out because in Italy, in Russia, in Australia, in the Philippines, in Canada, in the U.S. and Chicago, other areas, there have been real snuff films. And they sell them for $10,000 VHS. I talked about that a few weeks ago. And Nico Acosta, the lead producer, ran in here and said, read your file today. This is what your guest, the producer of the film, Open Secret's coming on about. He goes, he wants to get into Peter Scully, accused child abuser, may still be masterminding porn network. He's been arrested. We'll show people some images of this monster. I can't even read to you the stuff that's on here, but it's 18-month-old babies being raped and then dismembered. Okay? And it was so shocking for a long time, people thought it was an urban legend, even though it was in the news, and he got busted for doing it. They all have that same look. That guy's gone, man. That is a Renfield. That is a Zombo Procure. Look at that. Whew. Man, that is the face of a soul-sucked creature. I'll be honest, when I look at his face, I just think about a ball-peen hammer. I'm not a sadist unless there are people like that, and then I have serious desire. Because they desire to hurt children and torture them to death. I have desire to pull their teeth out with pliers. But I'm going to stop right there, ladies and gentlemen. They need to be brought to justice. No cruel and unusual punishment. We're going to turn into what we're fighting. But I tell you, as a father of four, it outrages me. And it just goes into the whole situation. We'll cover it coming up in the next segment. Arrest and trial. The most heinous of his output was entitled Daisy's Destruction, which sold to clients for $10,000 apiece, made in 2012. The multiple-part film is so extreme that it was for some time regarded as an urban legend. Now it's known to be true. It features the torture and brutal rape and a number of girdles by Scully and some Filipino accomplices, the three biggest victims of whom were Lizzie, age 12, there's also some death, Cindy, 11, and Daisy, 18 months old. Daisy. And it just goes on, arrest and trial, and again, that's just what he got busted for. So you need to understand, about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, national 60 Minutes equivalent television showed blurred out footage of 3 toddler boys being brutally raped, gang raped by dozens of men, screaming, begging for mommy. and then their .357 Magnums blow their heads off. And it's real. That was shot in Russia somewhere, dealt out of Italy, and then sold thousands of copies for $10,000 a piece on VHS for Hollywood elites to watch it. Because imagine when you're people like Weinstein. I'm not saying he's involved. I'm not saying that. I'm saying people like the drugs, the women, all of it. You've got to always have something more. There it is, Daily Mail. Beyond evil, pedophile gang who rape babies and toddlers and stream their vile crimes on the internet to sex abusers around the world are jailed for 78 years. See, and all this keeps coming out and is accelerating now. And how do they respond? They just say, there is no child molestation. The Catholic Church never did it. The deputy pope hasn't been arrested, even though he has been. And then they'll use a few mistakes people have investigated and go, look, it doesn't exist. And you got to wonder who's running around foaming at the mouth so hard to say none of it exists and none of it's going on. It's the very same people caught in Aleister Crowley rituals in the WikiLeaks, so they promise blood and semen will be at the event for their enjoyment. And then Obama just got the new painter for his portrait as a guy that paints in his semen. Okay? Gabe Hoffman was in studio with us just about a week and a half ago. He's now, I guess, back at his place in Florida. He's a former very successful hedge fund manager, philanthropist, and owner of Espinona Productions. And then it goes on from there, Facebook.com, An Open Secret documentary. An Open Secret on Twitter. They've been trying to censor their accounts, but trying to block them. But now it comes out, oh, Kevin Spacey. When he was just here a week and a half ago, I said, the word is, during a break, I said Kevin Spacey really pushes himself on young men and reportedly boys. And days after he was here, it broke. I mean, that was one of the names that we'd always heard about. And I wasn't even very big in Hollywood. I had a few connections. People made jokes about Kevin Spacey. They even had Family Guy shows where the baby escapes from a basement and says, help me, I've been captured in Kevin Spacey's basement torturing children. Like, we should probably pull that up. We wrote a story about it last week. It's like a 10-second clip. Just like they had jokes about Harvey Weinstein raping women. Now we learned 16, 17 years old. But Roman Polanski rapes a kidnapped 13-year-old anally, little girl, little young lady, a child. And, Meryl Streep's still standing ovation. He doesn't deserve to be in trouble. These are sickos. So people ask why they do this. It's to degrade everybody. That's their religion. And he sent along Peter Scully, may still be masterminding porn network, which he calls art. So it's okay as long as it's art. The Peter Scully, the whole story of the little girls tortured and raped on video. This is all just part of a larger network of what's going on. And this is what's diseased Hollywood. So talk about vindication. Corey Feldman coming out literally 2 days after we had our guest in studio. I mean, I know he picked the perfect time to go public with the film and release it for free to everybody after years of them trying to suppress An Open Secret. But wow, the dam is just exploding right now. And now the snuff films are coming out. The devil worship is coming out. As I told you, harassing women is not good, but it's the diversion for raping women. Raping women is the diversion for the much larger raping men. They want power. It's about raping men. That's 80% of it. Then it's about raping boys as you go down the rabbit hole, down the demon hole. Then it's about raping babies, younger children, babies, toddlers. Then it's about torturing them. Then it's about killing them. And now, Soros' hedge fund manager caught with a dungeon in a building. He said, don't worry to the women. I raped my daughter here, reportedly, allegedly. I mean, this is all the dam is breaking in spectacular fashion. And just since one person came forward saying Spacey, when I was 14, drugged me into a room and jumped on top of me and tried to take my clothes off, now they're going, oh, yeah, he does it to young boys, men, just right in front of people on the set, just sticks his hand in their pants, starts grabbing because he's a Hollywood god. It's all about power. It's all about sliming around. So, wow, what an amazing time. Gabe Hoffman of An Open Secret film. Man, this is amazing. What's the next shoe to drop?
So great to be here with you on InfoWars, Alex. Since we were on 2 weeks ago with you, we've gone from over 1 million views to over 3 million views, thanks to you, the American public, and all the InfoWars listeners. And
your film's one place, that's Vimeo, but it's free. Now you were going to run until Halloween. Is it gone now?
No, we extended it through November 5th. I mean, we just had to. We wanted to celebrate the bravery of these survivors who came down and took down 2 major Hollywood moguls just in a week. It's not only Kevin Spacey, but of course Brett Ratner, who was one of the biggest, producer business people in Hollywood. And you saw that LA Times article break, and then you saw
and I don't want to just give you credit and interrupt, but this is critical. You said, be brave, go public. Even if you can't go public, contact us. I mean, do you have any feedback that it's the film that's the catalyst to finally blow this wide open? Because it's happening.
Well, nobody's come up to me and said, hey, I've decided to come public because I watched the film. I don't think that's something that they would do. But we're definitely a small part of this avalanche that's starting when you see these other survivors of one of these Hollywood moguls and they're watching one of their fellow survivors out them and come public. They're inspired and they feel a duty to do it too. I mean, gosh, Brett Ratner was accused of rape, essentially. It's forced oral sex by Natasha Henstridge. And then, of course, somebody else comes out and accuses him on Facebook, and then you see, the Hollywood lawyer, Marty Singer, coming after her and, for millions of dollars. So the Hollywood machine is still fighting back, and that's why we need to keep doing this.
But they are getting their butts kicked. I mean, behind the scenes, I've never been threatened like this before, and it's specifically on these issues. It's like, stop it now. Stop it now. I'm not going to stop anything.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, and you touched on this a bit, but at first I was feeling bad for Kevin Spacey's career, sort of thinking, wait a minute, his agent already fired him. The show already got canceled. He's got several more accusers coming out just in a couple days. Even his PR people dropped him. But then I realized, wait a minute, he'll still have several convicted Hollywood pedophile directors to work with, who I'm sure will be happy to hire him. I mean, he could be like Roman Polanski's next leading man.
I was about to say he'll probably get even promoted more into the inner circle now. And again, it gets back to his dad, who was reportedly a Nazi, basic devil worshiper, psycho, even dressed like Hitler, had a beautiful family, wife and children, reportedly had sex basically with all of them. His brother's coming out and exposing. And that Kevin kind of took after daddy. That's why he plays such a good psychopath, because reportedly when you're around him, the guy he plays in Horrible Bosses, that's him.
Yeah, and you guys at InfoWars did a wonderful job. I mean, it was sort of God's blessing, a little humor that it was on Halloween that a lot of this came out. And boy, your imitation of a demon Kevin Spacey, I mean, it's one of the highest views on your YouTube channel there, Alex Jones. And boy, it deserves to go viral. I hope it does. It's hilarious.
We fire and forget. I don't even know it went viral. What's the name of the video?
It's your, Kevin Spacey's father was a, devil worshipping, Nazi or whatever. I think it has something like 80,000 views already. And
well, people always think I'm making this up. I grew up in one of the richest county in Texas at the time, and everybody was really nice until you went to a billionaire's house. And then it was like, we're devil worshiping Nazis. And it kept happening. I thought these really hot girls that are seniors driving brand new Jaguars and Mercedes really like me because I'm 13. No, they were trying to recruit me, and it was like, whoa. So I kind of learned about it there.
Right, and I mean, we could talk about some of what's going on with Bryan Singer right now, which is breaking. There's been a lot of interesting stuff. We could also talk about Dan Schneider and why people are speculating, kind of lay out the facts. And
exactly, and while we're kind of celebrating it's coming out, let's remember the abuse is still ongoing, and they're trying to sell pedophilia. NAMBLA's out in the open at the UN. I mean, we've got to think about the victims here.
Oh, absolutely, and somebody can just Google Dan Schneider feet, and they're going to see a lot of things that probably shouldn't be on children's television, or I'm sure they didn't know that their kids would watch on Nickelodeon, when you've got, kids getting ketchup and mustard poured on their feet and, feet massaged and all kinds of creepy looking things. It doesn't prove anything, but there's a lot out there that you don't know about your entertainment that's still going on, and you need to get informed.
Well, it's an attempt, obviously, to snake people into things. Nickelodeon has admitted, I remember like 6-7 years ago, they said, we're going to sexualize children, and Viacom had a plan to lower the tweenie preteen all the way down to like 5-year-olds and start the sexualization there.
Yeah, I mean, and Harvey Weinstein says on Hollywood Values that he only had to go to 1 week of rehab and then he's cured. I guess that briefcase full of pills that you had, says otherwise, but that's part of Hollywood hypocrisy. You saw that in Kevin Spacey's statement where he basically says, hey, I was drunk. It was a long time ago. I don't remember. But if I did do the thing you're accusing me of, well, I'm sorry. And by the way, there's going to be more stories coming out. And, oh, I'm gay. And, of course, some of the mainstream media actually bought that hook, line, and sinker. And they led with the tagline, Kevin Spacey is gay, and not Kevin Spacey tried to rape a 14-year-old. Luckily, you guys and Cernovich and, you called out the mainstream media, and, appropriately so. So they still got their defenders out there, and we're probably only in the bottom of the second, maybe top of the third inning in terms of all this.
I was about to say, the media is trying to keep it just groping people away from the underage, away from the raping. But just like with Weinstein and all the rest of it, it is not going to work, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us as we go down the rabbit hole. We got to go down it. But look, it's all coming out. Just like we say that they stole the election from Sanders, all confirmed, we broke it. We told you Trump was going to break the JFK files. He did as we are the cutting edge. I'm sorry, it's why we're under attack. We're number one. The only reason InfoWars is the absolute tip of the spear is because of you, the audience, and the other talk show hosts and other major news operations that do care about the truth, who've helped magnify our many breaking hardcore stories and the great guests we have on, like Gabe Hoffman. When his film suppressed for 4 years, they've been adding to it the whole time, which is, I think, how God works in mysterious ways. I think now is the perfect timing. Instead of 4 years ago, their suppression, their blocking of it, despite the fact that it did so well in film festivals that they tried to keep it out of, only, I think, helped it in the end. But Matt Drudge linking to it, what was it, last year and this year, and just everything together, you spreading the word, has now been a catalyst to expose this open secret of the mindset of these people, not just the horrible things they've done to children. But then you understand why none of it makes sense, why they want to corrupt everybody, why they're so evil, why they hate Christians, why they hate conservatives, why they want culture war, because they're turned over to evil. Gabe, you also sent me information about all the mainstream news articles out of Australia, out of the Philippines, out of the UK, where they're catching networks, killing kids, torturing to death. And it hits the news here and there, the massive arrests we see going on here. What else is important for folks to know about what's happening and what's going on?
Sure. Well, there's David Timothy Deacon, who is an American, and he went over there and became a kingpin, similarly with all the terrible snuff films and rape, torture, killing, you name it, of young children. And it's amazing. It's a huge news story over there in Australia and in the Philippines, really all across the Far East. Both Peter Scully and David Timothy Deacon, they're just the tip of that iceberg. And yet you don't see any mainstream or even local news coverage of David Timothy Deacon, an American who went over there and became a kingpin. You see it on InfoWars, of course, and that's why you're here. The Bryan Singer stuff is really interesting that's gone on the last 24, 48 hours, and I'd be happy to walk your listeners through what the facts are and what's been happening, and then they can make up their own minds.
Absolutely. Let's walk through it.
Okay. So about 4 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, there's an individual named Justin C. Smith on Twitter. He appeared to be a real person. The account was created quite some time ago. It wasn't anything recent. That appeared to be his actual name. And there was somebody, if you searched around, fitting his credits and what his age profile would have been. So it certainly appeared as though that he was a real person and that was his real account. He published a tweet stream of about 14 tweets, all linked together, that made some very specific firsthand accusations against Bryan Singer in the period of 1999-2000. And they were accusations of, let's call it, impropriety. He didn't see anything. He experienced impropriety firsthand. And, he talked about the party scene and the age of the kids and the open drugs and alcohol. He makes the accusations. So by about 8 o'clock, Yahoo Entertainment picks that up because it starts going viral on Twitter. Then by about 11, Drudge links to the Yahoo Entertainment article. So now it's really getting out there. Sometime between 3 and 4 a.m., literally in the middle of the night on Thursday, early morning, less than, 12 hours since this has come out, all of a sudden his Twitter account is gone. The Yahoo Entertainment is gone. And people wonder why, wonder how that happened. You can tell about the time that it was because you can see that people's retweets.
And we saw this with Rose McGowan and countless other people, Twitter, Facebook, you name it, when they are prominent stars with evidence, with other witnesses, and they make it in mainstream news, they get deleted. I mean, this shows incredible power.
Absolutely. And you see that when you talk about it got in a random place called The Forward. It's, they don't cover Hollywood. It's a Jewish place. And within 3 hours, that was taken down as well. Of course, it was the sort of Streisand effect where if you try to suppress something, just like our film, it only gets out there wider and wider. So it got archived all over the place. It's up on our Twitter feed, my Twitter feed at Gabe Hoff. People can look at those allegations, look at what is going on, and, make their own determination and see what happens. But that's just one interesting news item. It's funny. Bryan Singer has the same powerful Hollywood attorney, Martin Singer, who was the attorney for Bill Cosby, is the attorney for folks like John Travolta, Charlie Sheen, Casey Affleck, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Brett Ratner. I'm sure you're seeing a theme here. And I guess he's been busier than a one-eyed cat watching 9 rat holes these days. Or a one-eyed man in a you-know-what kicking contest. Or a one-legged man. Man, I tell you, so where does this go from here? Well, what was also interesting is there's somebody named Jordan Gavaris. He's one of the folks that we outlined 2 weeks ago when we were on your show, who had made accusations against Tyler Grasham. By the way, Tyler Grasham, we think, is the Harvey Weinstein of young boys, a very aggressive sexual predator. I think the accusations now are up to 7. The LAPD is investigating him, so on and so forth. So Jordan Gavaris yesterday afternoon, he found an archived version of the Justin C. Smith allegations, and he put them up. Now, Tyler Grasham and Bryan Singer are known to run in the same circles, and so that's all just very interesting, and it's all stuff that's on our feed, and people should look at and make their own judgments as to what's to come. Let me ask you this about Corey Feldman. Some of his folks, and he contacted us about 5 years ago, and again about 2 years ago, but we talked to him, and he never came on. Now he's been going on some shows, I think doing a really amazing job. But overall, what do you think of his story and that whole phenomenon? Well, a couple points. One is, if you actually read his book, he uses pseudonyms. And if you do a little sleuthing, because he does describe those people in detail, he basically names them in his book. You just have to do the work. That's number one. He did out somebody on Dr. Oz yesterday who's not anybody, rich and powerful. The other folks he accuses in his book, if you sort of do the sleuthing and you figure out who they are pretty rich and powerful. I'm not going to name them because it's an accusation, but all that stuff is out there for people to see. Sure. What do you make of Michael Jackson? Because I used to go after him until I did more research, and it appeared that he had, well, it's admitted, had been abused as a child, physically and sexually, and so was frozen at that level and wanted children around because he had a childlike mind. And Feldman and others say, yeah, like he'd have sleepovers and watch TV and have kids in his bed like he was 8 years old, but that he wasn't a pedophile. What's your research show? Well, if you dig deep in the Michael Jackson case, one of the things that you learn is that there was a bunch of evidence, like there are in just about every big criminal case, that the jury wasn't allowed to see for, whatever reason. The judge made their determination. And amongst that was some child porn that was found in a search of Michael Jackson's home, artistic sort of child porn, meaning that it was drawings, but they were still drawings of, children engaged in, sexual type activity. I was about to say, but it came out that he himself was sexually abused, so he may have been, drawing that out. I'm not defending Michael Jackson. I just attacked him so much over the years. Then when I did more research, it looked like there was more to the story there, that he himself was a big victim. But we know the victims tend to victimize sometimes as well. Right, and it's clear from the Corey Feldman case that when he went to the Santa Barbara police, look, they were after Michael Jackson. He was a high-profile case. What we also know is that it's completely plausible and even probable that Michael Jackson didn't molest Corey Feldman, because what these predators do, as we show in our film An Open Secret, and what you're seeing all over the place with these Hollywood revelations, is these sexual predators are sort of like a wolf surrounded by sheep, and they just pick 1 or 2 or 3 of the sheep that they feel they can, co-opt or they're attracted to for their own reasons. So he used Feldman just to make it look like everything was okay. Yeah, so it's totally plausible that he was fine with Feldman. Powerful. Gabe, Hoffman, Open Secret, come back on very soon for a full hour. We salute your work for all these innocents.
Major story. Now, I don't know if the mainstream fake media, because they are fake and phony, but I just don't know if they're going to pick it up. But I want to tell you, that is a big story, what she's saying. It's illegal, number one, and it's really very unfair to Bernie Sanders. I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan, although I must say I got a lot of his votes. When he was thrown out, many of those people voted for me because of trade, because I agreed with him in trade. We're just doing more about it than he can do, and we're doing a lot about it. But I thought that was terrible. Roger Stone, former head of the Trump campaign, Trump confidant, is here with us. And boy, everything you've said about the campaign and what happened after, your advice to the president has been dead on. But as we've said, the president's got his own brain. It's when our analysis, your analysis, clicks with his, that's when he tends to really go with something, when we confirm his own research, his own gut understanding. And the more he goes with his gut, the more victories we have. Roger,
What do you call this historically as Donna Brazile comes out confirming everything about them stealing the election criminally and the money from Sanders, all confirmed in triplicate, what you and I and others broke down with our moles and our information. We have all the articles to prove it and are on record, as everybody knows, attacked by the media for ever saying it. Now you've got Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren coming out saying it was wrong. You've got CNN reporters, people that pose as reporters like Wolf Blitzer. You've got basically everybody throwing the Clintons under the bus. Something months ago we said there's an internal battle. It's about to break. The Clintons are trying to hold on. They're extincting the party. So as much as I hate them and want to see them gone, now I love seeing her ugly face and Bill Clinton's ugly face because it is like kryptonite to these people. Just, it is bringing the republic back. It is beautiful. It is amazing. They just, you never want to interrupt your enemy when they're destroying themselves, as Sun Tzu said. What would you call this time, my friend?
This is fratricide is what this is. I mean, first of all, the president's absolutely right. So you had 3 out of 10 Bernie Sanders supporters voting for Trump. Let's remember it was WikiLeaks and Julian Assange who first revealed the documents that showed that the Democratic National Committee was cheating under the leadership of Deborah Wasserman Schultz. Were bending the rules. You know who won the California primary between Bernie and Hillary Clinton? No, either do I. You know why? They haven't finished counting yet. You know why? Because Bernie won. That's why. And we can't.
Well, they had a meeting the night before at a billionaire's house, and quote, they decided it was Hillary before they had the election.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
I mean, that's what's crazy about this. It's like the brazenness.
Every single professional Democrat I know, and I have many friends who are Democrats, they just want the Clintons to go away. They are poison. They are destroying the Democratic brand, or at least what is left of it.
So you heard my point about bittersweet. I kind of hope the Clintons hang around, actually.
Well, look, I think she's serious about running in 2020. Now, I predicted last night on the War Room, and I will stick to my prediction. Michelle Obama will be a Democratic candidate for president, and she is the presumptive nominee. She's certainly the front runner if she wants to be. Barack Obama, not the Clintons, control the machinery of that party if they seek to assert themselves. And the Obama brand, as much as I disagree with it, does not have the baggage that the Clinton brand has. It's the end of the road for Hillary. Everybody seems to know it, but her.
This is huge, but let me just, since you're into fashion and well-known for that in the New York circles, can we go to that camera shot of Roger Stone, please, real fast? I've not tried to look better than CNN or Fox News. We've built a studio here, for a fraction of the cost. But I've got to say, that shot with the American flag stars, with the InfoWars logo, and your suit is the best TV shot, better than Nightline, anything I've ever seen. We have achieved, I mean, I got to say, good job, crew. Wow, look at that shot, Roger.
And here's the thing, Alex, unlike Paul Manafort, I did not spend $1.3 million on my wardrobe in 1 year. I did not go to one haberdasher and spend $500,000. Now, since I believe Manafort's money was clean, and I think he earned it perfectly legally, he's entitled to spend it any way he wants. You notice in the phony indictment rolled out against him, they talk about how he evaded taxes, but they brought no charge of tax evasion.
And you first broke the fact that they obsessed over his suits. That was an inside thing he told you. Hours photographing him at his house.
Exactly. So when they broke into his apartment at 5 o'clock, after they patted he and his wife down to see if they were carrying guns, they actually patted his wife down before they let her get out of bed. Outrageous. They went into his closet and they took photographs of his extensive wardrobe of custom-made Italian suits. Now, I would not spend that kind of money on clothing, to be honest with you. I believe in buying quality.
But they want to put that out as a class warfare thing.
Yeah, no, it's the politics of resentment. They want people to resent the fact that Paul Manafort has been successful, and he's earned everything he has.
And they want people to think, oh, it must be ill-gotten. But then compared to the Clinton Foundation, openly criminal, all the uranium one coming out, the Podesta brother resigning, President Trump saying, go after John Podesta. What does that signify for us if we read the tea leaves? What is the president telegraphing?
Well, look, I think that they've got a very, very weak indictment. I'm glad to see Tony Podesta now finally in the crosshairs. There's rumors of 2 sealed indictments, But for all we know, they're going to indict Paul Manafort's driver for double parking, and they're going to nail his housekeeper for tearing the tags off of the cushions on his sofa. I mean, this is really reaching absurd proportions.
And they admit in the indictment that the junior guy that's pled guilty kept saying, do this with the Russians, and always got rebuffed.
Right.
And then it turns out he's connected to the Democrats.
And he's nobody. He had no authority. He had no security clearance.
So it'd be like, I've got 70-something people here in this office. It'd be like if I hired somebody as a junior editor, they'd been here a month, and then I'm indicted because the person gets caught selling marijuana on the other side of town?
No, it's not analogous, because you used the key words, hired. This guy wasn't hired by anyone. He was a volunteer. He had no official authority. He wasn't on the payroll. He didn't have a security clearance or even a pass to get into that.
And that's all they've got.
Right, and that's all they have. That's what they tie.
So let's pull back. The pedophilia of Hollywood's coming out. The whole thing's collapsing. The NFL is down 30-something% just this year. What's 18%? Everything's imploding. It's like they're rolling, snake eyes every time. We're rolling double sixes every time. I mean, I'm not trying to be over positive here. This is getting spectacular. I don't want to get too confident, though.
Well, I'm perplexed today by the decision announced by Attorney General Jeff Sessions to recuse himself in the matter of Uranium One. Really? This is extraordinary. The president...
Oh, yeah, what does that mean?
I don't understand where his conflict comes from.
I mean, there's no connection to Trump and Uranium One. It's all Hillary and Podesta. Exactly. What is he doing?
Yeah, he has nothing to do.
How about he recuses himself of being the Attorney General?
How about he resign or be fired? This is reaching absurd proportions. In
fact, I'm going to put the headline out now. Jeff Sessions has recused himself as being Attorney General. Jeff Sessions is not. Jeff Sessions has fired himself. Jeff Sessions is titular. He's ceremonial. Go, go, go.
But here's what's even odder, and that is the tweet by the president this morning in which he says he's not supposed to direct the actions or affect the actions of the Justice Department. What lame-ass lawyer gave him that information? That's incorrect.
In fact, he said, I'm not involved with the Justice Department, but I think they ought to do something. Well, they're trying to tell him, sir, that's obstruction. No, that's in your executive branch, Jack.
What he needs to do is to order Jeff Sessions, order him to appoint a special counselor, special prosecutor, even though, by the way, we have no special
And by the way, let's be clear. The president can't appoint one, even though he can under the Constitution, but then the Rosenstein, the deputy AG, he can.
Right.
And then this Swamp Thing Mueller climbs out.
Yeah, so I have nominees for a special counselor on Uranium One. I'd be more than happy with Andrew McCarthy or Judge Andrew Napolitano or even Trey Gowdy. We need a real lawyer, somebody committed to the rule of law to dig into Uranium One.
But they always thought they were going to get away with it. There's not even digging into it.
Well, it's there on the surface. Comey, Mueller, McCabe, Rosenstein. Guilty. Busted. Where is Jeff Sessions?
What is the verdict? Guilty. 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 We shall return on the other side. I'm Alex Jones, Roger Stone, and more. Tons of other breaking news on the other side. Have you spread the link to the show yet? It's an act of rebellion, and Soros hates it. By the way, Alex Jones here back live with Roger Stone. He'll be hosting the 4th hour. Then after that, Owen Schroyer in the War Room's coming up. Also that he co-hosts. That David Knight, weekday mornings, kicks off at 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. And that is The Real News with David Knight. And I get so busy in the here and now that I haven't really plugged today. I should have been. Tomorrow at 1 o'clock. We may go a little bit earlier depending on events, but 1 o'clock to about 8 o'clock. That's when Antifa communists is what they are. It's run by the American Communist Party on their own website, buying full-page ads with Soros money in the New York Times. They say they're launching these massive attacks, and so we're going to be covering it. And then the media comes out and says, we're lying, it's not happening, saying that these ads aren't real. So they don't want us to know what's going on. I guess they can launch their attacks and then spin it. But briefly, Roger came in here. He's been working so hard. He said, man, I'm tired. Do you have any brain force? This was a real plug. And he already took his brain force earlier, but I'm taking my brain force and my DNA force right now because my wife's birthday party last night, though I was a good boy, I did not imbibe. I did end up staying up late and did a big workout this morning. And usually by the last hour of the show, the fatigue hits me. But with Brain Force Plus back in stock at InfoWarsStore.com, I am doing well. And we also have DNA Force sold out for almost 4 months. It's 25% off DNA Force. amazing for detoxifying your cells, helping your telomeres not be assaulted by all the toxins, and thus last longer, more healthy cell division. That's always a good thing. Hundreds of studies. You can read links to them at InfoWarsLive.com and learn about DNA Force. Also, Biome Defense Probiotic, back in stock, highest quality, 25% off. Again, InfoWarsLive.com or 888-253-3139. And please commit to support us. We know you support us. You're awesome. I'm not beating you over the head saying, hey, you better. But the globalists are attacking us for a reason. We are the tip of the spear. We're bold. We have the bold guests and researchers on. You're getting today's news a year ago, a year and a half ago, on just every day you see examples. It's sickening. That's why they ran in hundreds of papers yesterday lies that Owen Schroyer said that Hitler was still alive and the government was lying. They just cut that out. He said, oh, according to 1955 documents in the JFK data dump. And then we had guest on, the host of Hunting Hitler, and he said, no, that's probably fake or a Hitler double because they were getting ready for Hitler to run there in case he wanted to and were moving into Argentina. But he thinks, a lot of it's classified, he can't get into it, he's involved in all sorts of classified stuff. He's just not your average Green Beret, that these actually did die in Germany.
I was sitting there when Owen said this. He never said Hitler was still alive. All he pointed out was that this document existed. So this is typical fake news by David Brock and the twisted freaks at Media Matters for America. These people are incapable of telling the truth, incapable of it.
And they're doing it every day. Like they say, again, that I say that there are human slave colonies on Mars. I never said that. It's a total lie.
Here's the problem. They can't get any traction on Twitter, on Facebook. Nobody's reading their crap. So they have to malign us just by mentioning InfoWars. The only way they can get any traction whatsoever.
It is mind-blowing, though, when they have Newsweek say that I made it up and that there's no full-page ad in the New York Times last Wednesday. This is on Wednesday night. They said, I'm a liar in Newsweek and a bunch of other publications. I mean, Roger, here it is. It's all over the country. The link, they have it on their own website. It's there. The New York Times has it online on their site. What is that?
Well, and you've been...
You're a political operative. What are they doing that for? I mean, it discredits them.
It's either sloppy, or it's uneducated, or it's willful fake news. There's only a couple possibilities. But
well, we know it's willful fake news. Why lie when it's so obvious? Like saying the sky is not blue and Donald Trump is a black man. I mean, it's not true.
Well, now you know why Newsweek is on the,
50% of their people just cut.
Yeah, no, and they're losing money hand over fist. They're hanging on by a thread. They're not thriving because, unlike we here at InfoWars, they're not telling the truth. They're not publishing the cutting-edge facts. They're just an apologist for the two-party duopoly and the failing political establishment that's run this country into the gutter.
What would you call this point that you have all the top Democrats coming out now and like stabbing Caesar? They're all coming out saying Hillary's bad, Hillary's corrupt, Hillary's evil, Hillary committed crimes, uranium won, stole the election from Bernie, and then Warren goes, we've destroyed the party, we've got to say we were wrong. A day late and $1 trillion short, lady.
But I think the left has figured out that if they cannot get rid of the Clintons, their chances for revival are zero. The professional left has figured out that the Clintons are not liberals, they're not progressives, they're not moderates. They're crony capitalists. They're thieves. They would steal a hot stove. They're interested only in themselves and lining their own pockets.
They're OGs. They're original gangsters.
Right. And even the left has figured out we must get rid of these people to have any chance of political success. So you see Donna Brazile, who I know and actually kind of like, I know on a personal level, even though our politics are completely deaf, she's come forward and said, enough of these people. So
and not just out of self-survival of a party.
It's desire for political success. That's what political parties do, and they realize they cannot be successful as long as Hillary Clinton or her husband is the face of the Democratic
Party. And notice they tried to sell InfoWars as the face of Trump, thinking they could control the narrative. Trump embraced it. It blew up in their face. And now this hardcore form of nationalist libertarianism, Americana, has literally taken the party over. I mean, we're not bragging when we say it. We are taking you, the audience. It's just devastating. They made every miscalculation. It's come out in WikiLeaks. They thought Trump was weak. So the Democrats mainly focused on him and gave him all the attention and ordered the networks to follow him, thinking it would help Hillary, even though top advisors said, no, he'll beat you. They were so arrogant. They thought because he was radical and off the rails that people would reject him in the general election. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah, no, I remember that I once read a biography of Hamilton Jordan, who had been Jimmy Carter's chief of staff. And he wrote in the book, we desperately want to run against Ronald Reagan. We can crush him. He's a simpleton. He's a moron. We'll destroy him. Of course, he was the one candidate who could beat Carter. It's exactly the same.
And by the way, you said this almost 2 years ago in here.
Yes, the Clintons wanted Donald Trump. They thought that they could beat him because he was.
Why are they so stupid?
Because they don't understand the American culture. They don't understand the American people. It was born of arrogance, and they got what they asked for. I'm convinced that no other Republican candidate of the 16 who ran could have beaten the Clinton machine. They nominated the one man who was able to beat Hillary Clinton, and then he was able, because of his positions on both war and trade, to move in on those Bernie voters.
He was the only man that could do it.
Exactly right.
And then there was InfoWars and Drudge with the background, everything ready. It was just all. It was like. It was a hole in one. It was a shot out of a million.
If you go to my book, The Making of the President 2016, I detail in there about how Hillary Clinton attacked Alex Jones and InfoWars by name. I was so jealous at the time, so jealous. But now that she's attacked me in her new fictional book, What Happened, 3 times by name, thank you, Hillary, I guess the score is even, Alex. They never understood.
Isn't it good to be blamed by this witch?
Well, it's not blame. It's credit in a sense, but the credit belongs to Donald Trump. He's the guy who...
Oh, absolutely. It's not about tooting our horn. It's so the audience gets, we are the vanguard. When I tell the audience, they're the reason we're here, supporting us, spreading the word, putting up with me, it's because it's you. You are the InfoWar, folks. This is real.
But we understand...
All over the world. Talk about the global thing.
We understand it's politically incorrect. It's socially unacceptable to be for Donald Trump. We are proudly, unabashedly Trumpsters here at InfoWars.
And we should. Look at the stock market. Look at the new jobs. Look at the new factory startups. It's better than Reagan even did.
It is. It is.
And a lot of leftists are finally going, okay, with this Donna Brazile thing was like the dam breaking. I'm seeing everybody go, okay, you're right. I'm glad Trump got in. She would have started a war. I don't know what's wrong with me. They're finally getting it. They got sucked into a con.
There's no question about it. And it's going to be interesting to see the way the chickens come home to roost in the district of Deborah Wasserman Schultz, where many, many progressives upset now that she's completely exposed as having stolen the nomination from Bernie Sanders.
Hey, don't you love this cartoon? It's of trick-or-treating, and there's a Batman, and there's a Snow White, and there's a little kid playing Hillary, and they go on to point out that one of the little kids won't go away. The one dressed like Hillary refuses to go away, and the lady says, yeah, nice touch. I mean, everybody gets it.
That interview, which I think you aired yesterday, or I guess Owen Schroyer aired it, of Hillary.
Where she blames Trump.
Right, for pointing out that it wasn't a truck that hit those people in Times Square. It was an Islamic terrorist. Oh, my God, he's dividing us. Dividing us? What, by telling the truth? Now telling the truth is divisive? Despicable, just despicable.
But the media, the Democrats have finally turned against her out of self-preservation. The media still worships her. I mean, doesn't a Trevor Noah or any of those guys know there's nothing more uncool than having the witch of hell on your show?
I frankly hope she keeps running her mouth. Frankly, she's destroying any chance they have of...
Should we start a committee to run Hillary again?
Yeah, Hillary 2020.
Let's announce it. Let's start at the fund. We are for Hillary. Hillary 2020. She can do it. I'm with her. Hillary 2020.
Definitely with her. Run again.
I'm with her. We love Hillary. We love Hillary. We love Hillary. Hillary. She's our girl. Roger Stone coming up in the next segment after a Paul Joseph Watson report is going to be taken over. And then Owen Schroyer in the War Room after that, 3 o'clock Central. Tomorrow, I'm going to be in here live, 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. at least, probably earlier if all hell breaks loose. But the communists say they launched their attack at about 1 Central, according to all their websites. They say the main attack, shooting police, bombing things, beating people's brains out, will start then. They have New York Times ads saying, rise up, overthrow Trump. So we'll be covering that. But you know, seriously, I'm sick of Hillary. I'm sick of Bill Clinton, all of them. But if they're destroying the corrupt, evil Democratic Party and not giving the rhinos cover anymore, then I want to see this whole political system burn down to the ground, and I want to destroy the Republic. So we really should get behind Hillary 2020. I'm with her, an exploratory committee. And I actually think about raising money for her and just being her biggest booster. But almost I don't want to, Ken, because that maybe they'll figure out that really she is cyanide to their party. But I think they've already figured it out. But she may win the Civil War up there with Pelosi and the rest of them and the other sea hags that they've got in charge of the party.
No, I think you're right, Alex. I think we need to draft Hillary Clinton 2020. Look, clearly they've looked at their bank account and they've decided we haven't stolen enough. We need the opportunity to steal some more. Maybe even Chelsea can steal more than she's already stolen. And therefore, she wants to go in 2020. God bless her. Please grab the nomination. In fact, I'm going to announce right now, my book, The Clintons' War on Women, will be out in the new edition if she runs. We'll get all the new corruption, the new lies about Russian interference in the election. You know, the mainstream media was right, Alex. There was a candidate nominated by one of the two major parties in bed with Vladimir Putin. There was a presidential candidate whose top aides were making millions off of the oligarchs around Putin. Unfortunately for them, that candidate was Hillary Clinton.
Oh, and by the way, just saying, who said 6 months ago there's a brewing civil war in the Democratic Party? Who said it 2 weeks ago and then last week, and Drudge picked it up? Now, let's put it back up. It's in the New Yorker magazine today and yesterday. The Democratic Civil War is getting nasty, even if no one is paying attention. Isn't that cute? We're, again, 100% insanely dead on.
No, I remember when you had an interview, I think was conducted by Richard Reeves, with a superdelegate who actually told our cameras, oh, it doesn't matter whether Bernie gets more votes. It doesn't matter whether he gets to the convention with a higher vote total than Hillary Clinton. She's going to be nominated. It's preordained. That was a stunning piece of television journalism.
You know, since you mentioned it, we're going to come back with Paul's report. Then we'll play that. That'll give you about 6, 7, 8 minutes to get everything ready, because I know you want to go get your notes. So that's going to happen after the break. In other news, what else are we watching, though? Because Mueller's still moving forward, even though he's been caught being a Russian bagman, literally. That's why he's so desperate to pin it on Trump. How's the swamp doing? I know it's launching chemical attacks on us we're not going to get into yet. But how should we watch our 6? How should we not be too confident?
Well, I'm going to examine yet again this decision by Jeff Sessions to recuse himself on the most important issue out there right now, which is Uranium One. I just don't understand what's wrong with this man. There is no conflict there. He's not involved in any way in Uranium One. And why he will not do the job that is constitutionally required of him, I don't understand.
He's got to go.
He really does. He's too concerned with busting people for smoking legal marijuana in the 29 states where the people have legalized it, grabbing people's assets when they haven't been convicted of any crimes. I mean, I was talking to Judge Andrew Napolitano about this about a week ago, and even he has sadly concluded it's time for Jeff Sessions to pack it in and go.
Well, Jeff Sessions is already recusing himself from being the Attorney General.
In essence, absolutely.
And, of course, they argue, well, he met 3 times, you know, a couple of years before. Well, that's what senators of his level do with the Russian ambassador.
Nothing improper or illegal about that.
I mean, Pelosi met 30 times. He met 3 times. It's just crazy. All right, Roger Stone, straight ahead. Please spread the word about the broadcast. You're the reason we reach people and get through the big censor systems of Google and others. Email our articles, the videos, spread the links. This is how we win. I salute you all. We'll be back. Stay with us.
The Arabic chant, Allah Akbar, God is great. Sometimes said under the most beautiful of circumstances.
So an Islamic terrorist kills 8 people before chanting Allah Akbar. And your first response is to tell us how beautiful Allah Akbar is.
Allah Akbar, beautiful.
Too soon, Jake, too soon.
Allah Akbar, beautiful.
Yeah, it probably didn't sound too beautiful to the victims who were laying face down on the concrete, bleeding to death. But hey, at least Jake had the balls to say Allah Akbar, unlike the rest of CNN who refused to even run it on their news ticker. Unlike this CNN reporter who refused to even describe the suspect.
Police know who he is. They have a description of him. I'm not going to share that at the moment.
Unlike the BBC, who said he made a statement consistent with a terror attack.
What you're seeing is not Islam whatsoever. None
none of this is condoned, including the, sacrificing and getting yourself killed at the end of a terrorist attack. None of that is Islamic. It's anti-Islamic.
Really? That'll be why there are 109 different verses in the Quran that talk about going to war against the non-believers. That'll be why the Quran specifically mentions a vast reward for martyrs who carry out attacks. But yeah, nothing to do with Islam. After all, he was just your local friendly Uber driver.
Acts of terror don't belong to any faith.
Really? I must have missed all those Mormons and Hindus mowing people down in trucks in major cities on a monthly basis. And let's not forget what our main concern should be after an Islamic terrorist butchers a bunch of innocent people. Someone, somewhere, might be mean to a Muslim.
Keep the Muslim fear-mongering to yourself, bigots. New Yorkers don't. With that, New Yorkers don't have an hysterical fear of Muslims, so no one bother marketing that here. It begins. CNN reports murderer said Allah Akbar. Cue the Islamophobia. Many Muslims will now have to answer to Manhattan. Unfortunate. I really hope that this pickup driver was not Muslim because I'm not prepared for all this Islamophobia. The most Trumpian thing most people do is overreact to a small terrorist attack. Let's be supportive of the city, but let's not pretend powerful Islamophobia hasn't been a stain on the history of the city since God knows.
Yeah, I'd argue that Islamic terrorism has been more of a stain on New York City, given the, thousands of dead people murdered by Islamic terrorists. Do you even realize what a pathetic meme you've all become with this Islamophobic backlash crap? A lot of you were probably more offended by Halloween costumes than by this atrocity. You're not the victims here. Muslims aren't the victims here. There's never any substantial Islamophobic backlash, yet you trot out the same narrative after every single attack, purely as a way to silence discussion about Islam, purely as a way to shout down people demanding something be done to address Islamic terrorism. If your first concern after yet another bloody Islamic terror attack is people being mean to Muslims, then you're part of the problem. You're responsible for creating the chilling atmosphere that blocks society from confronting this evil.
And our government seemingly are powerless to stop this. And I have children, and they're growing up in London, and they take the tube, and I take the tube, and we all take public transport because I can't drive, right? So, and there's like bombers roaming free around the city, and our government, and the government before them, and the next government after this one will be powerless to stop it because of some hippie ideal about people's religious beliefs.
One of the factors that led to this attack can be traced back specifically to the left's obsession with political correctness. The terrorists came into America under the diversity visa program, a program designed to, quote, diversify the immigrant population in the United States. Because diversity is our strength, right? A visa program that Trump is trying to end and that Democrats are trying to maintain. Meanwhile, my government wants to let ISIS jihadists back into the country and give them taxpayer-funded benefits and housing. And if you think that sounds ridiculous, well, you're an Islamophobe. And then you've got the nerve to portray conservatives as terrorists who want to mow down children with trucks, when that's exactly what Islamists are actually doing while you run defense for them. Oh, but the most disgusting thing is Trump supporters exploiting a tragedy to justify racism. Well, A, Islam is not a race, and B, that's exactly what you did after Charlottesville. Saying Manhattan attack represents Islam is as reckless as saying Charlottesville white supremacy rally represents white people / Christianity. Oh, you mean like virtually everyone on the far left did after Charlottesville? What did New Yorkers do after the attack? They went about their lives. How inspiring this brave citizen refuses to be distressed by something that didn't happen to her. Keep calm and carry on. It's pretty hard to go about your life when you're dead. It's pretty hard to go about your life when your son, daughter, husband or wife isn't coming home tonight. Oh yeah, and while this terrorist was being radicalized and plotting the attack, what was New York Mayor Bill de Blasio doing? He was rushing to Hamburg, Germany to show solidarity with rioting Antifa scumbags. He was warned about specific cases of radicalization, but he was too busy virtue signaling about how much he hated Trump to pay any attention. And what's the FBI been focusing on for the past year. Conspiracy theories about Russian collusion. Maybe the BBC's John Sopel gets it.
London, Barcelona, Berlin, Nice, Paris, and now New York. Fabulous cities now having this dreadful thing in common.
Islam? No. Vehicle attack. Those darned vehicles and their extremist ideology must be stopped.
Priority is containing the chaos, you dimwit. Widespread Islamophobia and panic does nothing to help that.
Now, the chaos has already been wrought. The clue being all those dead people on the floor. The priority is containing the ideology that caused the chaos. But people like you won't allow that to happen. The left won't allow that to happen because they're so virtuous and pure. They'd rather tolerate this than be called Islamophobic.
Allah Akbar, beautiful.
We're here at the Red Arrow Diner, and we've gone further down the bar here, and we've found this gentleman. What's your name?
Bob Mulholland from Chico, California. I'm a DNC member, thus a superdelegate to the National Convention.
Wow, so that's the first time I can think of that I've talked with a Democratic superdelegate. Tell us, how long have you been a superdelegate? How long have you been delegate? And tell us a little bit more about the process of how you get to be a superdelegate.
There's several ways, but this will be my 11th national convention. I've been a superdelegate since 1992. In our case, in California, you have to get elected by the California Democratic Party to be on the DNC. Obviously, Democratic governors are automatic superdelegates.
So understandably, that it sounds like Hillary is going to have a huge edge when it comes to superdelegates. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, and former DNC chairs like Howard Dean, who's from Vermont, he's known Bernie for decades, he's for Hillary. Yeah, the people who have worked with Hillary for decades are big supporters of her. If they haven't said so yet, they will over the next several weeks.
So roughly, when it comes to the Democratic National Convention, what is the rough total of delegates that are going to be available for the DNC?
Right now, about 4,800. So you need about almost 2,400 to get the nomination. And the way we work is that anybody who gets 15% more in election gets delegates. So this election will go all the way to California. Sanders will end up with well over 1,000 delegates, and Hillary will get the nomination.
Okay, now the superdelegates are basically what Hillary pretty much already has in her pocket. How many delegates does that amount to?
750 delegates. My guess is she probably has half of them committed to her. But she's out there working the precincts and working the states every day for every vote. And March 1st is Super Tuesday. At the end of the day, you will see that Hillary has the most delegates of regular people from caucuses like Iowa, from New Hampshire primaries, Nevada, South Carolina, and then all those states on March 1st.
I'm Roger Stone, sitting in for Alex Jones, and you're at the Alex Jones Show. I'll be right back. In the meantime, don't change your settings. Stay tuned to the Alex Jones Show. We've got lots coming up. We are going to go through the president's tweets and analyze those. We're going to talk about blasphemy in the city of Philadelphia, where they're talking about removing the statue of Mayor Frank Rizzo. There you have it, the man of the hour, very much in the news, Senator Bernie Sanders. Thank you, Senator. We're going to be taking your calls today. You can call at 877-789-ALEX. That's 877-789-ALEX. I'm going to be proud to take your calls here on the Alex Jones Show. Frank Rizzo was a beat cop, and then he was the police commissioner, and then the two-term mayor of Philadelphia, tough on crime in the 1970s. Frank Rizzo was on his way to an unprecedented third term as mayor, a comeback, this time as a Republican when he was struck down by a massive heart attack. Now, there is talk about removing the statue of Big Frank Rizzo, known as the Bambino, sometimes called the Cisco Kid, from in front of the municipal building in Philadelphia. Now, Frank Rizzo was neither a slaveholder nor was he a traitor. In fact, he was a great American, sometimes called President Richard Nixon's favorite mayor. He crossed over to endorse Richard Nixon in the 1972 campaign against Senator George McGovern. Now, the city fathers in Philadelphia say that they're looking for alternate locations for Frank Rizzo's statue, but they won't mention where those alternative locations are. My guess is they are nowhere, and that the statue of Frank Rizzo is going to be removed in this hell-bent for leather dive towards political correctness. I'm particularly interested in the comments of CNN commentator Mike Smerconish. Smerconish is a brilliant legal analyst, one of the better commentators there at CNN, but he also is a former aide and protege of Frank Rizzo. So, Mike Smerconish, I'll be looking for your comments on this travesty. Again, we're going to be taking your calls at 877-789-ALEX. That's 877-789-ALEX. I've been keeping a close eye on the Twitter feed of Donald Trump. Now, you can't follow me on Twitter anymore because just before the indictment of Paul Manafort and his longtime deputy, Rick Gates, and some fellow named Papadopoulos, who I have never heard of and who was a mere volunteer on the Trump campaign, I was unceremoniously banned for life by Twitter. This is a bit strange because, you see, that's not what they told me. When I would go to my Twitter feed, I was told that I was banned for 3 hours and 22 minutes. 3:22. The numbers of skull and bones. How convenient. Well, I waited and watched it click down and click down and click down until it was 1 minute before my suspension was to end, and then it all went black. Now, if you want to keep track of my exploits and what I'm up to, my supporters have put up something called Stone Cold Truth, at Stone Cold Truth. Go there now, and you can keep track of what I'm doing. I don't control that feed, but it does accurately reflect what I'm doing here at InfoWars. You, of course, can also go to the InfoWars feed to see what Roger Stone is up to. Because you see, folks, I won't be silenced. When I was in Washington Tuesday, I met with some of the top telecommunications lawyers in the country who believe I have an extraordinarily strong case on both First Amendment and antitrust grounds, as well as others. And therefore, I was heartened when I've been contacted by a number of multinational corporations, names you would recognize in the communications business, more than willing to financially underwrite a lawsuit against Twitter. And perhaps we shall have one. Stay tuned. The fight over Roger Stone's Twitter feed is not over. Yesterday, you can see a tweet from my wife who asks the obvious question: why is Roger Stone banned when the people who threatened to kill our family, our children, even our dogs, well, they're still up on Twitter? Good question indeed. Let us then go to the phones, which we should be able to take our first call. A little hard for me to see here, but let's go to our first caller. Yes, Noel in Chicago. Noel, what do you have on your mind today for InfoWars?
Oh, Roger, always good hearing you on AM 890 here in the Windy City. I wish they'd give you more time, but, you know, that's corporate radio for you. But yes, always good hearing you in Chicago.
Glad to be there. Those are great guys. John and Ray, I love those guys.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you should take Big John to a proper tailor in Chicago. His style is a bit lacking over the years. I must say, fascinating, Mr. Stone, that as the months have progressed, I was in front of Donna Brazil in Las Vegas at UNLV at the convention, the final convention before the election, in which she went on for well over an hour or so defending that the DNC did not burn Mr. Bernie, and number two, that the Russians are behind the whole WikiLeaks fiasco. It's fascinating that now that Ms. Brazil is leading the charge in saying, in fact, that the Clintons rigged the Democratic electionary process. It's fascinating. It's in your years and decades in the city of the District of Columbia, Mr. Stone, have you ever seen such a purge on a faction of a political group such as Clinton's as witnessing currently? And then secondly, can Mr. Trump, is it possible in his first term to truly drain the swamp in D.C.? I'm sure the political games he had to, make concessions with Pence and Reince and so forth, but can he truly drain the swamp in his first term?
Well, let me take those in order, if I may. Look, Donna Brazile is a very bright woman, a highly capable woman, and I think she has figured out that the Democratic Party cannot survive, cannot have a revival as long as the Clintons hang around. They are completely discredited. They have blown their credibility with the American people. They're viewed as having no integrity, no philosophy, only interested in lining their own pockets. And then when Hillary attacks Donald Trump as a sexual harasser, as a sexual assaulter, well, it just doesn't ring true. As we know, it's Bill Clinton who has raped and sexually assaulted multiple women. In my book, The Clintons' War on Women, I detail at least 24 women attacked by Bill Clinton. But more outrageously, it's Hillary Clinton who runs the cover-up, hires the heavy-handed private detectives and the nasty lawyers to silence his victims. We'll be right back, and I'll take the second part of your question. Welcome back. I'm Roger Stone, and you're on the Alex Jones Show. A little vintage Rolling Stones there, a little tune by Chuck Berry. Now, I want to come back to the second part of Noel's question, and that is about the large number of Bush alum in the Trump administration. An Associated Press reporter asked me about this only days ago. In all honesty, if President Trump fails in his mission to make America great again, if his administration fails to bring the extraordinary reforms that he's fighting for, it will be sadly because he has surrounded himself with quislings from the Bush era. I blame Reince Priebus, the former Republican national chairman, the former White House chief of staff, who was able to overpower my friend Steve Bannon and dominate the appointments around the president. Why, for example, you would appoint Mitch McConnell's wife, the longest-serving member of the George W. Bush cabinet, as your Secretary of Transportation is beyond me. Why you would let Condoleezza Rice, the cheerleader for the Iraq War, the progenitor of the falsehood, the conspiracy theory, if you will, that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, dominating policy as our de facto Secretary of State. Her recommendation, Rex Tillerson, filling the job until at least January, when I have predicted right here at InfoWars, we will have a Rexit. Yes, he'll be gone by January 20th. So it is a problem, to say the least, and it is, I think, a pity that the president has not surrounded himself with people who are Trump supporters, people who actually voted for him, unlike so many members of the White House staff. Let's go back to the board here. Mark in Oregon. I'm anxious to hear your call. Mark, what's on your mind?
Well, Roger, great to speak with you, and great to hear you sounding so vital and healthy.
Feeling good.
Good. Well, it's easy to tell. You're a very high-energy person. Roger, I keep the current events of significance of come so close together very recently, especially since Mr. Trump was elected president of this country, that I just try to keep up with the most important things currently. I enjoy watching them be defeated, the dark side, but at the same time, they have some real strongholds. One of these strongholds right now, as far as where this country's going to go, and will Trump be successful, is to bring all of these people to justice all at one time for the crimes on paper that they have committed with full documentation. And Jeff Sessions, who I now highly suspect, if I'm not convinced, that he's actually been a plant even through his Senate career, and that he posed as a patriot enough to have people think that he was on our side. And there is no reason whatsoever that he can't initiate the legal procedures which are necessary to bring these people from Clintons to Obamas to members of the Obama administration. All this would cause a reversal. It would give us the moral high ground. They would be shown for what they are. It would turn the whole tide of energy in this country.
Well, Mark, thank you for your call. Let me address it, if I may. I have been astounded by the actions of Attorney General Jeff Sessions. When we learned shortly after the president's election that the NSA under Barack Obama systematically spied on 30,000 Americans in violation of both the law and the Constitution, this is not some conspiracy theory. This was a declaration by the super secret FISA court. In fact, the Obama NSA was warned not to do this, but they did so anyway. This is a crime far more egregious than Watergate. Yet, under Jeff Sessions, there has been no prosecution of Susan Rice, no prosecution of Mr. Clapper, Mr. Brennan, Admiral Rogers, Valerie Jarrett, and those who were well aware of these illegal surveillances. These were surveillances that amounted to political espionage. In other words, the use of the U.S. taxpayer-funded official capacity of the American intelligence community for partisan political reasons. Where has Jeff Sessions been? Why has he brought no prosecution in this matter? Then, of course, he recuses himself in the matter of Russia. We know what the president thought of that from his Twitter feed. And now, incredibly, he recuses himself on the question of uranium-1. Now, in the question of uranium-1, there is a vital need for a special prosecutor. Even though we have no special prosecutor law under which the prosecutor would have to give regular reports to the attorney general, the special prosecutor would be required to get approval before expanding their investigation beyond the narrow charge they are given. We still need someone to look into the activities of, yes, Mr. Mueller, Mr. Comey, Andrew McCabe, the associate director of the FBI, and then U.S. Attorney Rod Rosenstein. This gang of four were the people who covered up the Justice Department investigation into Russian bribery in connection with uranium-1. Now, when I came out and said to the Daily Caller in a terrific piece by Alex Pfeiffer that the president should demand the appointment of a special prosecutor, literally within an hour, Vanity Fair and Raw Garbage or Raw Stuff or whatever this other lefty website are were out with a counterpoint saying that Stone is completely wrong, his legal theory is wrong. This is so much partisan sandbagging. It's a hypocritical argument that says pursuing uranium-1 requires no special counsel. Given how trumped up the charges are against Paul Manafort, amounting little more than a run-of-the-mill assistant U.S. Attorney General prosecution at best, one wonders whether I struck a nerve. Again, Mr. President, don't let your legal advisors mislead you. You have the authority to order the Attorney General to appoint a special prosecutor in the matter of Uranium One. But now, with Jeff Sessions taking himself out of the line of fire, well, that would lead to, unfortunately, Mr. Rosenstein. Is this exactly the reason why Jeff Sessions has recused himself? For all we know, Rosenstein would ask James Comey to be the special prosecutor in this matter. Outrageous. Let's go back to the call board if we can. Rachel calling us from Australia. Rachel, what's on your mind?
Oh, hi, Roger. How are you going?
Excellent.
I'm just, first of all, I just wanted to say lots of prayer and support for all of you guys in America in the dark times you're going through. But the question I wanted to ask was something. I'm a Trump supporter. I saw something earlier in the year that I've had a question in the back of my mind about his meetings with Henry Kissinger. My understanding is that he's quite a serious globalist, and I was just wondering what those meetings were about and if they were still meeting on an ongoing basis.
Rachel, I'm going to address your question on the other side. You're on the Alex Jones Show. Stay tuned, and we'll talk about Henry the K. That's right. I'm Roger Stone, and we're back at the Alex Jones Show. I want to pick up our question from Rachel very quickly. I know Dr. Kissinger. I have charted Dr. Kissinger's political ascension from where he started as a hardliner under Richard Nixon, became a progenitor for détente. I also know for a fact that Dr. Kissinger has been a key player in helping the president get the assistance of the communist Chinese in the matter of North Korea. So I give Dr. Kissinger credit in that limited area, but he is a globalist. Above all, Henry Kissinger worships power, and Donald J. Trump is the man who has it. I want to say that if you were watching earlier, you saw me right here on screen take a handful of my favorite InfoWars product, Brain Force. In fact, this very broadcast would not be possible without that dose of Brain Force, which I find brings me mental clarity, mental energy, really helps prepare for these broadcasts. Now, this is just one of the extraordinary sales going on at the Infowars.com store right now. 50% off. This is highway robbery, folks. Get this incredible product while you can. When they are out, it really hurts me. I have run out because I wasn't smart enough to get in the auto charge program, and that proved to be a mistake. But you've got some extraordinary sales going on now. DNA Force back in stock. This is one of the very best products. This is a cutting edge. I strongly recommend it for vitality, for boosting the immunity. But just one shipment of this incredible product costs us around $30,000. Alex Jones insists on the very best of these all-natural products. Nothing gets on the site unless it is rigorously tested. And you can see that there are literally, in some cases, thousands of testimonials of satisfied customers. So when you go to the Infowars.com store, whether it's Brain Force or whether it's DNA Force or whether it's any of the other fine programs, Winter Sun, this is something my wife really subscribes to. Now, it is absolutely true. With the winter sun and less sunshine, your body gets less vitamin D. This can lead to lethargy, depression, and worse. This terrific product, now also 50% off. Help yourself, help us, help the resistance, help the fight against the globalists, smack George Soros right in the nose by going now to the Infowars.com store and stocking up on these terrific products now at extraordinary savings thanks to the price slashing by Alex Jones. Let's go back to the board and take a few more of your calls. Glenn in Pennsylvania, we talked about Frank Rizzo's statue outrageously being removed from the city of Philadelphia. But Glenn, what's on your mind today?
Hello, Roger. I wanted to say first that I appreciate the depth of historical insight and the knowledge of the personalities and the roles they've played that you bring to us. I always learn a great deal whenever I listen to you. So here ends up the kissing up. And I did call about the Frank Rizzo issues. But first I want to say, tomorrow they do have scheduled a refusefascism.org protest in Philadelphia at the Thomas Paine Center. And I'm considering now running out this evening and having a Hillary Clinton for President 2020 shirt printed up and then wearing it down there tomorrow and circulating about the periphery and seeing what kind of responses I get.
Well, be careful. They might call that a dirty trick. Just remember, one man's dirty trick is another man's civic participation. I'm delighted to see that Mike Smerconish at CNN has put out a statement, a terrific piece, in which he says the right place for Frank Rizzo's statue is exactly where it is. Now, I am one who's been very critical of the folks at CNN, but on this subject, Mike Smerconish is absolutely right. Glenn, do you have a question?
About the Frank Rizzo thing. If they move the statue, I would think one place they might consider for it would be in the South Philly area near the Italian market. I think they talked about that with the Rocky statue and that sort of thing too, because that's South Philly is historically the strongly Italian area of the city, although the demography there is changing, but they could move it there. Or as you said, perhaps they may not actually try to move it anywhere. Now, I'm 56 years of age, so I vaguely remember the Rizzo dynasty. And his brother was the fire chief.
Yes.
And they were like a Philadelphia institution. He did suffer something of a police brutality scandal back in the day. That was, I sort of remember that being on, in the media. But it was a time of, still have a lot of protests going on, a lot of civil rights stuff and things like that. So we did have to endure that. But again, this is the foolishness of this iconoclastic approach to everything, relative to statues and historical things. It's folly, I think, to run around destroying everything in order to wipe the slate so the globalists can, rewrite American history in a revisionist fashion and blank the memories, make sure that the millennials and the people growing up don't actually get any sort of reasonable mental picture of what actually transpired so that they can implant whatever ideas they want.
That's exactly right. It's an attempt to erase our heritage. Speaking specifically, District Attorney Arlen Specter thoroughly investigated charges of police brutality under Police Commissioner Frank Rizzo, and no charges were ever brought against Rizzo. That was never official department policy. But Glenn, I thank you for your call. Let's go back to the call board. Gregory in Washington. What's on your mind, Gregory? We're here on the Alex Jones Show.
Yeah, hi, Roger. I've been looking into the First Amendment and how it applies to the web since 1993, so I find your recent case very interesting. And I just wanted to share an idea here with you. Using the later half of the First Amendment, I'm going to insert the word Twitter and read it.
Sure.
Twitter is the freedom of the press, the people's peacefully to assemble in the petition of the government for redress of grievances. As far as I'm concerned, Google, Facebook, all these people, they're nothing more than paper and ink sellers. And we really have to look at how to apply the First Amendment to them as if they're just selling the new form of paper and ink.
Well, Gregory, thank you for your call. I would say this. It's time for Twitter, and Google for that matter, to be regulated like utilities. The telephone company is a privately owned company, but they cannot deny you a telephone. There are important First Amendment issues. Now, in my case, I believe that I'm being held to a different standard than others. You see the whack job, Keith Olbermann, a man who cannot hold down a day job. constantly dropping the F-bomb, attacking the president, urging his assassination, but he's still on Twitter. You see ISIS announcing that people are going to be beheaded, but they're still on Twitter. So there is clearly a different standard for people like my friend Milo or myself, and we're going to let the courts sort this out. Yes, there's a big old lawsuit coming, and the pockets of those who are supporting this lawsuit are every bit as deep as Twitter. In fact, given the fact that Twitter is losing money from bad management, one presumes, I think our war chest may be bigger. Thank you very much for your call. Again, the call for your calls, if we can put that up for me again, I would ask you if you want to get on board here. That number is 877-789-ALEX. That's 877, there we go, 877-789-ALEX. We are open to your calls. This is my favorite part of the Alex Jones Show, the interaction with the info warriors. And I'm happy to take your calls on any question. We are moving up on the end of the show, so I ask you one more time, go to the Infowars.com store. Help us continue to be the tip of the spear. Help yourself, help us, help the revolution. Go to the store now, folks. There's some great, great discounts. Many thanks, and victory or death.